Episode 1, Life Start. The sky's dark with moon hung accompanied by twinkling stars, a cold breeze blowing the night. In the forest outside Konoha village, an unknown missing nin leaping over high trees while holding a large scroll on his chest panting. He kept looking back sweating as if someone chasing him. What a twisted fate. Stop right there. The missing ninja stumbled as he stopped on the branch when a voice coming from his front head frantically whipped to where was the sources come from before his eyes widen. Heart beating fast like he had run a long marathon, almost scared of what more likely of whom he saw. Standing before him is an ANBU. Normal ANBU he can handle because he's equal with their strength, but specialized ANBU is not the people you want to mess with. This ANBU has the mask of fox with the size of eyes hole small and sharp like slit. Ears pointed upward, completely covered his whole face. A dark navy bandana wrapped most of his head and his blonde hair. Don't laugh at his short height. If you did, you die. Whoever bumped this dangerous ANBU, may Kami have mercy on them or they would be wishing for early death. Kasuko Mikiyasu, Konoha B-Class Missing Nin, you are under arrest for stealing the Forbidden Scroll out of the village without Hokage's permission. Therefore, surrender, then your life would be spare. The ANBU command low and monotonous, holding his sword's hilt that's strapped behind his back. His figure shaded in shadow under the tree he stood on. The missing nin, Kasuko Mikiyasu, replaced his fear with anger, his body shaking terribly as he shouted, "Go to hell! I will never hand this forbidden scroll to you. I have been waiting for this long to steal it, so I can use it to become Orochimaru-sama's rightful servant." He took out his kunai from his porch, hidden under his dark cloak, before he leapt forward and attacked the ANBU by swinging the weapon attempted to slice his throat. That is a big mistake he made. Before he realized what happened next, his world consumed by darkness. The ANBU landed on the ground gracefully, flickered his bloody sword on his side as the red liquid splashed on the ground soundlessly, wiping the blade over the bushes beside him. Satisfied with the cleanness, he unsheathed it. He turned around and while walked toward the fallen corpse under the tree where the missing nin stood once, he magically took out 2 rolls of sealing scroll from nowhere. He unrolled the one of them, then laid it under the enemy's head. The face shone horror and confused, eyes wide open, mouth opened as he made a silent scream, blood dripping from the chopped neck, but the ANBU did not mind on that matter at all. Hand sign made before the head gone in poof of smoke. The seal were completed with the head restored in the scroll. He took out another same scroll and did the same with the corpse. After everything's done, just like the first he did with the scroll in the first place, only now it's gone like it disappeared within the air. Standing there unmoving, widen his sensing range in that area to listen to any little suspicious movement and sounds. Everything's clear and normal. Leaving the tainted blood on the ground where the fallen corpse once fall before, he vanish. Leaping over branches without any sound made, returned to his village ready to meet Hokage. Stamp, sign, stamp, sign, stamp, sign. The third Hokage hates paperwork. Even until midnight, he has to work to finish it so the paperwork will clear off from his desk. Damn. He wished the fourth could tell him how to fasten him finishing paperwork before the former died. In another thought, he wished he's the one who did the sealing instead of the fourth, since the third is already old and want nothing but a nice long rest, but knew he didn't. He sighed, there's no use on saying these matter. What done is done, nothing can change it. Head jerk up when he sensed a familiar chakra before a puff of white smoke appeared in front of him. He smile when he finally have something to distract him from his forever enemy, aka paperwork. Ah, Kitsune. I assumed that you have completed your mission. After the smoke cleared, standing before the third is the same ANBU earlier with his right fist put on his chest, bowing in respect. Hi, Hokage-sama. You can take off your mask, Naruto. The said young ANBU nodded as he reaching his mask to untie the string and the bandana behind his head. Now his face shone. His blonde strands slightly out from his bandana and loosen each side of his face. His face were slightly pale, whom everyone thought that his skin were supposed to be tan, 3 whiskers on each of his cheek like a foxy style, but the sad thing is, his blue eyes show nothing but emptiness. The third couldn't help but cringed when he heard the hollow voice from the young ANBU. This boy he called as his surrogate grandson, once who was a loudmouth, happy-go-lucky, clumsy, full of innocence look and so energetic with his endless stamina, are now an emotionless assassin. His hands were tainted with blood and full of dark secret around him that he could not live a normal life anymore. This happened all because of that Danzo jerk mummy with his root program. The third thought that evil man has disbanded the root few years ago. Because of that program, every piece that Naruto has was broken and turned into an empty shell, leaving him to control Naruto and used him as a secret weapon tool. Nobody knows what happened to the boy during his disappearance 8 years ago, but when the third found whereabout Naruto 3 years ago and what his lifestyle was, he was furious that he wanted to kill Danzo with his bare hands. Snapping out from his thought, looking at Naruto, who were standing in front of him like a statue with scroll on his hand. This is the completed mission that have been assigned to me, Hokage-sama. The third nodded his head as he received the scroll. Naruto took a step back, waiting for his next order. Hokage looked at the young ANBU, knowing the boy waiting for his order to carry on. But this one is most likely the last one. Naruto, are you sure you're fine? He asked and worried. He need to know that Naruto is perfectly 100% fine. Yes, Hokage-sama. I'm fine. Thank you for your concern. The third sighed and tired. Of course the boy is fine. He is now completely an emotionless boy. Whatever you say and did to him, he would most likely ignore you. He leaned forward with his elbow propped on the desk and fingers crossed as he brought it to his face. Scroll laid aside. He looked at the boy with serious face. All right, I have an order for you. But this order is the last one. So are you ready to hear and take it, Naruto? If any other people facing the intimidating third, they would surely sweat from head to toe, afraid of the wrath caused from the professor of shinobi. However, Naruto is not one of these people. Hi, Hokage-sama. Take a deep breath before he replied. From now on, you are on the long-term mission while off-duty as an ANBU. You will be a genin and enter Ninja Academy starting tomorrow. Your mission will be watching the last Uchiha survivor, Sasuke Uchiha, until he became a Chunin elite. As for you, you can rejoin the ANBU once your last mission is completed. That is if you wanted to. This is an S-class secret, so you cannot tell anyone without my permission. Do you understand? Naruto nodded without hesitation. Your wish is my command. Mask already on. He was just about to make hand sign to Shushin but halted when the old man called him gently, Naruto? The said boy looked up at the old man who has a worry and sad face. Just be yourself, okay? Naruto stared him long. It's unnerved the third because he can't see the reaction behind the mask but kept watching. Then Naruto nodded his head slowly, taking his advices and buried it into his heart. The third waved his hand in dismissed. The boy nodded again, then Shushin himself disappear from the office. After the young ANBU gone, going back to the ANBU headquarters, he slumped back to his chair, sighed heavily but in sadness. I miss it when you called me GG Naruto. Just like when you're little. Akamaru, wait, where are you going? Kiba shouted as he running to chase after his white little puppy called Akamaru. The boy has short brownish unruly hair, red upside-down red triangle at each cheek just below his eyes. He wore a gray jacket with fluffy hood, black pant and blue tola sandal. He looked young and around and 12 years old. They were now closer to their home, in Izuka's district, so they didn't care if anyone awoke from their sleep because of his shout. Damn it, Akamaru. Just wait, would you? As if his shout were answered, Akamaru suddenly stopped in the middle of the street. Taking the chance to breathe, he stopped just 8 feet distance behind Akamaru. Damn, that puppy sure can ran fast. Man, do you have any idea how hard it is for me to dash? He didn't manage to finish his sentences when he saw his puppy waggling his tail excitedly with his back faced his master, but that's not what make his jaw dropped on the floor. What's shocking the dog boy is, an ANBU crouched down patting Akamaru's head gently while whispered, good boy. The ANBU lifted his head, showing the mask of fox causing Kiba gasped and shocked. Kiba heard of this ANBU from his mother. There's an ANBU who looked young but strong enough that can handle the enemy easily. He is feared by everyone, even from the enemy's country, because he is deadly. However, no one knew who he is but the Hokage himself, because he always wore his mask everywhere and all the time. He only came out at night to do his missions and missing at the day. No one sees his face, not once. His past was hidden in the dark, which no one knew what he did before he joined them. Not even the ANBU squad themselves, because he was a specialized that had appointed by Hokage himself. One thing for sure, messing with ANBU Kitsune, you will never be able to see the day tomorrow. And Kiba didn't even realize that the ANBU stood in front of his face with Akamaru held on his hands until the dog boy snapped out from his shock. "I believe this is your dog." Kiba looked down at his puppy. Then the boy in front of him only nodded his head numbly. No words come from his mouth. Not noticing the robotic voice the young ANBU used. "I return him to you." When Kiba heard him talking, he shuddered. No wonder he feared by everyone. This guy have no emotions at all, just like what an assassin is supposed to be. Quickly took the Akamaru from ANBU's hands. He thanked him for stopping his puppy from running away. ANBU Kitsune nodded his head before walked away from Kiba as the dog boy stared him retreating. Before the former boy leapt on the wall, buildings, houses, until the figures turned to spot, then gone from their sight. Kiba finally fall on his knee while clutching Akamaru to his chest as he sighed in relief. Glad that dangerous ANBU had finally gone. "Phew! Man, that was scary, Akamaru. We're just lucky that ANBU Kitsune didn't kill us, or else we won't be standing here alive." But as Akamaru barked at him, Kiba's eyebrows furrowed and confused as he sniffed the air before his eyes widened. "I smell blood." Once he was deep inside of Death of the Forest, he landed gracefully on the ground. After he's sure that the area is safe and clear, he took out the sealing scroll from nowhere and unrolled before laid it on the ground, then make few hand signs. A puff of smoke appear as the same blooded corpse shone. Sensing the wild animal sounds, he flipped backward and landed on the highest branches without any sound made, watching silently as the tiger coming, approaching the corpse as it sniffed its food. Not wanting its food snatched by other predators, the tiger leapt on the corpse as it eating in bloody raw. Every part of the body had been ripped apart into pieces, not caring the blood tainted its fur. A few minutes later, the tiger finally finished its meal as it walking away, leaving nothing but the ripped and blooded open scroll. Naruto did not collect the scroll back. Instead, the scroll itself automatically burned in fire, slowly turned into ashes. Now that the wild animal has fed, he turned around as he leapt over the branches. Not long after that, he already inside the ANBU's quarter. Either the others asleep in their room or patrol around the places. No one bumped him as he walked straight to his room. Entering his room before closed the door, then locked it, taking his mask off, his bandana and his sword as he put it on the desk. His armor and his ANBU clothes took off with only in his black pants. He slowly crawled over his mattress as he tucked himself under his thick sheet, which doubtfully could warmed his body enough, but he didn't complain. At root, no excuse or complain leave from their mouth if they wanted to survive. With his head hit the pillow, his conscience slowly slipping away from his body. Episode 2, Meet the Shell. Life as a genin is suck for those who studied in the academy. History lesson, learning the basics, ninjutsu, genjutsu, and taijutsu, learning how to use ninjas' weapons, kunai, shuriken, wires, scrolls, and such. All they want is quickly graduate from academy and become an awesome ninjas. However, they did not know the path they will choose once they set their foot on these dangerous world. Like Naruto, who already step in this kind of world from the start. Early 4 in the morning, Naruto was already awake before any other members does and fully dressed himself in simple yet comfortable clothes. A loosened gray shirt, not too tight and not too loose, with short sleeves, high collar that almost cover his mouth, and stop till his hips. Underneath is his dark blue tank top with polar neck and long sleeves. His pants were the same fit as shirt, only in black night color, and each side has its pockets. His sandal is the same as others with blue Tolus type. A small porch were wrapped around his right thigh with bandage, the other two were at his hips. Since Naruto would be leaving the ANBU quarters until the right time to return, he emptied his stuff in his room. Nothing much. just some of his clothes, scrolls, and any other important things sealed in his sealing scrolls. No one here in the quarter knows who he is, so it's better for them not notice him leaving because seriously, they were so aching to see his real face but didn't get the chance to do anything about it. After everything is clear, he silently leave the room and out of the place. He jumped over the buildings until he found himself sat on top of the fourth statue's head at the Hokage's monument. He didn't know why he sat on the fourth Hokage's head, but during these past 3 years, whenever he did this he felt like something wrapped around him like a warm blanket. He didn't understand kind of feeling he have, but for some reasons he felt so peace and relax. The horizon cleared as the night shone by the ray of light slipping every corner in the village. Moon and stars fade away like they vanished from the sky. The breeze blew the strand on his face, cooling his tense body. His blue eyes sparkle reflected by the light. He felt like he can sleep in this kind of sensations, but he can't. He have learned this in the first place. Sleep is not an option. If you did, that's when you let your guard down and get ambushed by the enemy. He learned this from Root. He looked at his watch. 6:47 a.m. The academy will start in 10 minutes. He better be there in time or nothing good will happen. Ninja Academy. Irika loves teaching. Yes, he does. Every time he did, he can see the sparks on his pupils' eyes showing their determination with the will of wanted to be a ninja. And every time he asked them about what their dream is in being a ninja, he got a lot of innocent answers. I want to be #1 awesome ninja. I want to be badass. I will have a girlfriend if I've become a ninja. I will become rich in no time. I will have peoples adore me. So I can learn a lot of ninjas techniques to beat peoples up. Nice and sweet boyfriend must be out there waiting for me to be there for him. So much for innocence answers. Right now he is in the class with full of annoying, loudmouth and most noisy pupils. 2 boys yelled at each other about whose shirt's prettier, girls polishing their nails with whatever colors they have, throwing something on others, gossiping, shooting a rubber band on a distant target, the girls battling their eyelash at the boy top rookie academy in this year only being ignored. Well, not all of them were annoying. Some were sleeping, eating, sat still, brooding, reading, chatting, and other thing they do without being nosy. At least they have some decent on being quiet. He looked at his watch on his left wrist. 6:55 a.m. Well, in less than 5 minutes, he'll be arrive. Who, you may ask? Well, you see, less than an hour ago, Irika was summoned by Hokage to Hokage's tower, saying that he has something to discuss with the man. About what? Flashback. Hokage's office. Knock, knock, knock. Enter. The door opened. The secretary entered as she bowed her head as she addressed politely, Hokage-sama, Irika Yumino is here to meet you, sir. Let him in. She nodded, exited the office as the said man stepped in before did the same like the secretary in respect. Yes, sir. Irika Yumino. Have brownish hair tied in pony style leaving the hair spike in every direction, long and sharp face with strong jaw, a big slash across his nose, tan skin, and he's a chunin, faced Hokage respectively. The third lifted his head looking at the chunin with kind eyes as he smiled, a smoking pipe on his mouth while holding it. Ah, Irika. Glad to see you here. Irika nodded. Is there anything you need, sir? Hokage make sound. Bend down to reach the file on his desk, then hand it to Irika. I need you to read this file before I tell you, would you? The chunin moved forward and took the file, confused with the third saying. He opened the file and read the content. Name, Naruto Uzumaki. Age 12. Hair color, blonde. Eyes color, blue. Height, 145 centimeters. Weight, 47.7 pounds. Village, Kanahagakure. Ninjutsu, unknown. Genjutsu, unknown. Taijutsu, unknown. Background, unknown. Eyebrows rise in confused. 3 basic ninjas technique and background stated as unknown? What's that supposed to mean? I'm sure you're curious of why I asked you to read Naruto's file and 3 basics Nin, and his background were stated in blank, correct? He nodded at Hokage's statement, yes, statement. Starting from today, Naruto will be your pupil in your class. Startled at the sudden news, he didn't know what to say as he stuttered, unable to talk properly. What? Sorry for being rude, Hokage-sama, but what do you mean by Naruto will be my pupil in my class? The powerful and wise man gave his brilliant answer as he smiled. Just as I said, Naruto will be your pupil in your class during his stay at the academy in this semester, and you will be watching his daily progress, then report it to me. He blinked once, twice, then he said it out bluntly before he could stop himself. What's with this boy anyway, Hokage-sama? He couldn't help but curious on what's so special about Naruto, not to mention the blank in 3 basics ninjas techniques. The third stared at Irika, before gazing at the village through the window with distant eyes. Smoke flew out from the end of his pipe. You see, Naruto has very different and complicated life that made him changed from who he really is into another person. No one knows his past, not even me, because he trailed off, unable to continue but end his answer lamely. You'll know when you see him. End of flashback. Back to Irika. The tone that the third used was so soft at his last statement, which Irika nearly missed to hear that. He sounds like sad and felt regret toward the boy? Why was that? Did something happen to this boy at his past? And how did he look like? Yes, he don't know what Naruto's look like because the file only show his profile but no picture. So yeah, you can't blame him for not knowing how he looks like. The third says that the boy doesn't want his pictures to be taken because of certain circumstance. I wonder why. Knock, knock, knock. Someone knocked the door, but most of the pupils didn't hear it because of the ruckus they causing. Irika, however, did, since he's the closest person with the door. Is that him? Looking at the watch, 6:59 a.m. Wow, he actually here in time. He thought and amused. He stood as he walked toward the sliding door, opened it and looked outside. There's a person who stood there with hands hung at his sides like a statue. A boy with navy bandana wrapped around his head. And his hair is it blonde? Yeah, it must be blonde, just like Yamanaka's, only darker. He wore a simple yet comfortable outfit. A zipped gray shirt, short sleeve with high collar covered his lower face. Underneath his shirt is his dark navy tank top with long sleeves matching with black pants. Oh, you must be Naruto Uzumaki. The new kid, is it? Irika asked politely since he didn't really know him. But when Naruto lifted his head, shock shone on Irika's face as he covered his mouth with his hand. The eyes Naruto have as clear blue as sky that once certainly sparkle, full of innocence and brought happiness, were now icy dull and lifeless, as if the boy is already dead, leaving only his body as an empty shell. Plus, his face shone nothing but emotionless, like a walking corpse. God, what kind of life did the boy have? It's true when Irika said he felt sad and anger for the boy because no child should suffer through anything horrible. Wait, is that whiskers on his cheeks? Yes, sir. I am Naruto Uzumaki. Irika Yumino, Chunin-sensei from room 403 *, I don't know. Pick randomly. If any of you know, let me know. Would you and I would gladly change the number *. Correct. Even his voice sound dead. Irika shook his head mentally. What happened to him? Is this what the third Hokage mentioned about? Wait, is he? Noticing the question asked directly to him, he nodded. Yes, I am. Jay, just wait here for a while before I announce your arrival to the class. He stuttered, finally tore his eyes from the boy. The boy nodded and, leaning his back against the wall next to door, slowly walked back to his desk. Take a deep breath. Get yourself together. Need to be fine in front of your pupils or they would assume something's wrong. You can talk to him later after the class. Yeah, facing the kids as he clearing his throat, trying to get their attention, which obviously fail. Instead, the volume keep rising, vein pop out from his temple. When will they learn to start and listening? Well, if this keeps up, his hell day will never end. Sasuke. Sasuke, the last Uchiha survivor from the massacre 7 years ago, are now Avenger, on his way to become stronger and a goal to kill the slaughter of his infamous clan. his own big brother, Itachi. He did not want to waste any time and do nothing, but all Sasuke can do now is brooding. No, he did not call it as sulking. Why? Because the class he were in is nosy, like a market no less. Kiba pranking at other kids, his dog Akamaru barking, girls gossiping green shirt is better than green blouse like that, Sakura and Ino swooning over him? Or is it flirting? More like sickening him, which he ignored completely. Can't they see he hate bin crowd? Chuji eating and such. Taking Shikamaru's favorite words, who were trying to get some nap but fail miserably with noises around him. What a drag. Sasuke? Silky raven hair with duck, but style and bang frame over his forehead, narrow dark orb eyes, pale skin, the same ages around with Kiba. He wore blue shirt with Uchiha symbol printed at his back and white loosened pants till below his thigh. His sandal also the same as Kiba's. Even Irika-sensei got a headache staying in this class checking their homework. But the man was lucky that he was here 10 minutes ago, unlike Sasuke who arrived earlier than the rest of them. Knock, knock, knock. There's someone knocking. Irika-sensei stared at the door before he looked at his watch. Eyebrow raised in confused as Sasuke do the same. 6:59 a.m. Who's coming anyway? For all he knew, all the students are already here. No one's late. So who is it? Irika-sensei walked toward the door before opened the door. He looked outside, face lit up. Oh, so there's someone want to meet him. However, the older man suddenly looked shocked. Eyes shot upward in amused and confused, interested in what made the other man shocked. Sneak a glance at Shikamaru. It seems that the lazy genius also sensed something odd, which only his eyes visible under his folding arms on his desk plane on looking bored. After few seconds pass, Irika returned to his desk in daze but quickly snapped out, looking at his beloved pupils with wary eyes. Shaking his head off, he cleared his throat to get their attention, but none of them did. Angry vein pop out from his temple before make his favorite jutsu, which few of them who noticed, including Sasuke, quickly covered their ears with their hands ready to block any booming sounds. And he is right. Shut up. Immediately, the class become dead silent. Finally, Sasuke thought as he sighed in relief, silently. His eardrums is about to burst. He didn't plan to be deaf ninja, you know. Okay, class. I have an announcement for you guys. Starting from today, there will be a new kid in this class. Now this got Sasuke's interest perk more. Not that his face shown anything but scowl expression. New kid in second and last semester? Who would come to academy when the graduation is in less than 6 months? You can come in now. The raven looked at the door when a boy stepped into the room. Everybody in the room got curious on what kind of person he is. Even Sasuke, but that doesn't mean he would voice it out loud. His pride won't allow him to do so. The boy wore a simple yet comfortable outfit. Standing beside Irika-sensei, he faced them but with head bowed. He seems off. Not only did he move like a ghost, he didn't even glance at them. What's wrong with this guy anyway? Everyone, this is Naruto Uzumaki. Naruto, do you have anything to say with them? So, his name is Naruto, huh? That's new. Never heard of him before as far as he know. Wait, why would Sasuke want to know him anyway? This guy just try to act cool at the front just like any other girls would think so he can brag about being awesome and getting a girlfriend or anything like that, that's all. Typical. Well, he's not that interest, really. Yeah, right. But what he didn't expect is when Naruto lifted his head up, his eyes met with Sasuke's. The raven boy froze when he saw the look on the new kid. Icy dulled blue eyes, emotionless and pale skin, paler than Sasuke himself, like he haven't been under the sun in a long time. The same way as Itachi, who shown nothing but stoic. But when Sasuke narrowed his eyes and looked closer at the other guy, that look doesn't suit him at all. He don't know why and how, he just sure that this new kid doesn't suit with that look at all. He wondered what kind of life did this new kid live? Naruto Uzumaki, that is all. No one speak at the moment. This is kind of awkward. Sneak a glance at Shikamaru, eyebrows furrowed and confused, without being noticed by Sakura, followed by Ino, who sat next to him ogling directly at him of course. Even the lazy genius thought the same as he is. Shikamaru. This guy needed help. Shikamaru thought. Only few of them knew that something is really wrong with Naruto, even though this is the first time they met. Shikamaru. Black hair tied in pony style like pineapple, narrowed dark eyes, and slightly tan skin. He wore a black fishnet shirt, short sleeves, and gray open jacket with short sleeves and green pants. Everyone called him a lazy napping guy, but the truth is he actually a genius. The way Naruto talked is just sound. Dead. Not only that, his blue eyes were dull and empty, completely different with Sasuke, who have the eyes of hatred and revenge. He can't really see Naruto's look since his lower face were hidden under his high collar. Just like Shino. Wondered why they like to wear that kind of clothes, however. The aura around him were totally off and seriously chilling his skin. Man, did something happen to him in his past? Oh, okay, Naruto, you may take any available seats. Iruka-sensei stuttered. He knew something is wrong with the boy, so what is it? Damn his curiosity. Naruto nodded his head robotically, moved forward as he passing through the students. The way he walked are so, what words to describe? Different than any normal kids should be. His moving are totally in control. Intimidating, too silent. Like a merciless assassin. The others scooted away from him because, well, he does kind of creepy, so yeah, of course they did. Though, because of Naruto's cold behavior, a lot of girls misinterpret it as a charm, causing them to fawn over him like he's some kind of prize, but he ignored them. The closer Naruto get, the clearer Shikamaru can see. His skin were too pale, paler than Sasuke's, like 1,000 ages of vampire, that is if that creature even exists, but seeing the world they live. That may possible to happen, if you ask him. He pass, until he took a seat, next to Shikamaru? Ugh, what a drag. Episode 2 Head Start. Ever since Naruto began his study and his mission at Ninja Academy, the gossips about him spread fast like wildfire. Why? Well, let's see. Each time, especially earlier in the morning, whenever they got into the class, Naruto would be the first to show up and sit at the back near the window. When he was not in the presence and everyone thought he'll absent, the said blonde will appear from nowhere before the class even begin, scarring the shit out of the others. While Iruka teach the class with Konoha history lesson, which everyone hates so much. Sasuke too, but won't admit it out loud. They ignored the class and do what they usually does. Sleeping, whispering, do other things and such. Only Naruto, who'd paid attention at the lesson. He even took notes with flashy speed, much to Iruka's pleasure. However, when Iruka wanted to question Naruto about the lesson, the boy gone in a blink of an eye, startled everyone in the class. Guess he hate been questioning then. Another thing, the kids have been dying to see the blonde's face, so they made a see Naruto's face plan, only end up failed. Well, let's take a look on their plane, shall we? Plan 1. Before the class begun or end, they immediately searched ANBU in disguise, though the blonde had already gone from his seat before they could make a move. Plan 2. When he went to the restroom, few of them tailed behind him until he arrived the destination. But to their disappointment, he's gone as soon as they charged in the room. Plan 3. During break time, sneaky eyes locked on their target, who was deciding where as his eating place, eat in the class or decide to go to canteen. Much to their disappointment, neither get the shot as he stood up and went to the shadowy corner, then sunk in. Plan 4. The girls flirted with him whenever they got the chance in the class. Naruto, being emotionless he is, only stared them blankly. At the same time, he went to the open window and stepped out without breaking the eyes contact. Without utter a word, he bent down behind the wall, disappeared from their sight, leaving the class speechless. Sasuke nearly laughed out loud at the sight, but didn't want to give the girls satisfaction. Serve you right, that's for bothering people. Plan 5. In sparring lesson, when Iruka called the other pitted Naruto, the kids will set their eyes on the blonde's face. Sasuke only want to see his skill, but the match end up unexpected. The ANBU in disguise fought them as if they were 3-year-old children, tripped the other's feet when the opponent aimed to punch his face, causing them face the dirt. Kicked there but out of the ring when the others turned their back on him. There's once he told a girl, "A big spider fall on your head just now," she screamed, ran off from the ring match. Automatically the victory become his. making the others sweat dropped at the scene. When Irika asked him why was he did that, emotion manipulation method was what he said. In the end, he won in such a short time. But there is one thing that Sasuke does not satisfy at all. When Sasuke pitted Naruto, all the blonde did was dodged his attacks. Then until the last minutes he jumped out of the ring match on purpose. When Irika asked him why, all he say is, Sasuke is too strong for me, so I forfeit. That's a totally bullshit. Plan 6. When all of these plans failed, they all cornered him around his seat where no shadow can help him escape like usual. Though something else kept their attention distracted, causing his turn their eyes away from him. When nothing happened, they turned around only to see the seat was empty. No one's success because the blonde kept disappearing to God know where he is from time to time, and by the mean of disappearing from time to time, I mean he appear when he need to be and disappear when he not needed, just like a ghost. There's thing that Irika worried though, especially Naruto's writing test. His grade was below average. The man has tried to help the blonde to work over his writing knowledge and other stuff that he lacked, but the result was still the same. This leads us to the Hokage office where Irika giving his report about Naruto's progress to the Hokage right after his class ended. So you saying Naruto's grade is below average, correct? Hokage said, with his favorite smoke pipe on his mouth while reading the Scar Chunin's report about Naruto. Yes, Hokage-sama. Irika said everything about the progress Naruto had along his study in the academy without leaving any single detail behind. The third satisfied with his report as he smiled, but with different reason. It seems Naruto trying to make himself as a dead last so no one know his real capability. Clever. I don't know how to help him if he keeps up like this, Hokage-sama. It's been 2 months. Irika paused. And his social skills. He only talk when it's necessary and even isolated himself, making him hard to get people getting near him. Though, being the shadow he has made him hard to social with others. Poor boy. Hokage's face grimaced. He didn't want his favorite blonde's heart become ice rock, just like what Danzo really wanted him to be. An emotionless secret weapon. Before that, have you ever talked with him? Pardon. The third gazed at Irika, putting the report on his desk. He repeated his question, but this time more like a grandfather telling a story to his grandchild. Have you ever talked with him? Thing that does not related about the school? Eyes blinked, now that he think about it. Did he talk to Naruto about anything? No, he didn't. The boy kept disappearing whenever he wants to ask him about something. Come to think of it, why does Naruto avoid being questioned by anyone? Is there something to do with his past? I don't think so. He tempted to keep avoiding from being questioning by anyone else. May I ask why Naruto did that, Hokage-sama? He really don't understand at all. He asked the old man, hoping the other can answer for his question. Sigh escaped from the third's lips. His gaze turned to the distant of the horizon across the window, trying to put his thought into words carefully. Naruto actually felt insecure. Insecure? The scarred Chunin's eyebrow furrowed in confused. Naruto show nothing but blank. From what Irika look in his own perspective, Naruto do just flawlessly. So why would he felt insecure? As if reading his mind, the third speak again. Naruto may appeared stoic, keeping himself from approaching people and does not talk with the others, but that is how he shows the sign of insecure. I still don't understand, sir. What did the third mean? Naruto felt insecure by avoiding peoples? Does he mean that Naruto scared? He looked at Irika, who looked really confused with the third's answers. The old man gazed out the window softly whispering, leaving the brunette connecting the dot. You already know the answer actually, you just need to find out yourself. Right now, you're the only one that can help him. Irika exited from Hokage Tower and is on his way to Ninja Academy. He had left his forgotten textbook in his class and wanted to bring it back to his house. He needed it for the class tomorrow. As he walked, Naruto came to his mind. What could have turned Naruto into like that? Is it because of what he carries within him? Yes, Irika knew that Naruto has Kyuubi the demon fox sealed in him once he saw the whiskers, in a glance. On the blonde's cheeks, his birthmark. Yes, he is supposed to hate the boy, but how could he? The boy has turned into emotionless person, which scared the man completely. What kind of life did he live through? He is so lost in his thought that he almost passed the academy building before he turned back and entered his workplace. He walked in the hallway before his classroom came into view. He's the only one left in the school and everyone had gone back to their home. Then again, his prediction turns wrong once he opened the door. He is not the only one that stayed in the class. Sitting at the back near the window, navy bandana around his blonde hair, high-collar hoodie gray shirt, Naruto. Arms folded on the desk with his right palms support his chin while facing his left side as he stared outside the school. Normally Irika would warn them to not staying at the class after the school end and tell them to go home. This time he didn't. The evening light passing through the opened window and shone over the class including Naruto. What captivated Irika's heart the most is his eyes that once blue icy dull turned to warm living sky or calm ocean. Face softened showing the expression that Irika clearly familiar with, loneliness. It's breathtaking, with the colorful clouds swirled toward the sun and sinking behind the building before them at the background. The clear orange yellowish mixed with pink lights brightened the boy's face, enchanted his figure more. It made the blonde boy glowed and look like a fallen angel. Oh, how Irika wish he have his camera with him right now and take a picture of this masterpiece. It's fabulous. It's glorious. It's magic. It's beautiful. Yumino-san? Irika startled when he was called by the blonde pupil. He looked at Naruto, who watched him with his old emotionless face, hands rest on the desk, much to Irika's disappointed. Great, good job for ruining the image, Irika, he thought sarcastically. Unlike his other pupils, Naruto is the only one that called him as Yumino-san. As much as he loved to be called in respect, it just didn't feel right to Naruto referred him like that. He didn't really sure why, it just not right. Ah, sorry Naruto. Didn't mean to interrupt your peaceful moment. He quickly replied, realizing that he had been caught by staring at his pupil. Damn, how long did he stare at the boy? I just want to pick my textbook on my desk, that's all. The blonde only stared him blankly without breaking eyes contact, which unnerved the Chunin. After what seems like forever, which only a minute, Naruto finally nodded his head before resumed his watch. Irika sighed in relief, hand rest where his heart is. He walked toward his desk and picked his geographical book, happy to know that no one steals it away. Who in their right mind want to steal his reading material anyway? That's ridiculous. Not that Irika need to know that. He was just about to turn around and walk away but halted when he remembered that Naruto is still in here. He wanted to tell the boy to leave the class and go home, but he didn't think that's a good idea. Right now, you're the only one that can help him. The third's words ringing inside his head. For now, he's the only one that can get through him. To make the blonde crawl out from his empty shell, he just needs to make the blonde trust opened up to him. Once he did, Naruto would tell him something about his past. Right, easy said than done. He shook his head furiously. What kind of adult is he? Naruto may seem cold and creepy bastard, but he's still a kid. A lonely kid and longing for love, even though the blonde didn't know about the fact. No matter, he's an adult must do what an adult's supposed to do for a kid. Love. Yup, he can do that. Naruto. The said boy turned his head and stared him back. Can I? He took a deep breath, trying to calm his nerve, gathering his thought before he rezzed again. Can I speak with you for a moment? Good to know that he didn't stutter. Naruto titled his head, a move as a thinking pose. Should he accept or object, as Irika thought? Finally, the blonde nodded his head and ready to be questioning. Okay, first step, succeed. Irika moved forward to the back of the class and sat beside Naruto. He laid his textbook on the desk across him. He glanced at the blonde, who unfolded his arms and rested on the desk before facing the Chunin with his blank face. Damn it, Irika really hates that look. He cleared his throat, then asked the very first question in his mind. So Naruto, if you don't mind, can you tell me a bit about yourself? Like what? Naruto answered flatly. Irika hummed while thinking, although he still felt bothered with his monotone answer. Okay, what about, starting from, what do you think of this school? Good. Not good enough to know his point, but that's okay, I guess. Right? Do you get along with the others here? No. Why? I have been marked as a target. Huh. The pupils here were ganging up and tried to attack me. Though I noticed that they were planning on attacking my face, I wondered why. Irika nodded his head slowly. Oh, right? Yeah, about that. Irika knew why though. He had heard this so-called marvelous plan from his pupils and other teachers. What they were planning was to see Naruto faces but failed miserably. And he even had a few hard laughs too, especially one of them was about the girls trying to flirt it with him. The girls insisted that as seducing, for the sake of their plan, want to make him interested at them, at least one of them. In the end, it backfired. Naruto escaped from the class through the window. He must say it was kind of hilarious. Well, at least they used their skill they'd learned from his lesson. Though seriously, what make them think they can outmatch the blonde's skill? Irika knew that the boy had been holding back his strength during the sparring taijutsu. Naruto did not take the pupils seriously. He didn't even fight Sasuke and instead he just walked away. He wondered, did Naruto did that on purpose? Now that he think about it, the writing test, did he purposely lowered his grade and just be average or nearly been the dead last? But why? He made a mental note to ask this question to the boy or maybe Hokage later. And he should have realized that the boy had been staring at him for quite some time now. He quickly shook his head and changed the subject. Right, what's your likes? My likes. Yes, your likes. Naruto did not answer this question and instead he looked down on the desk and became quiet. But Irika saw through Naruto's blank face and surprisingly, knew what it is. Confusion. Irika frowned. He didn't know what he likes? I do not know. Bingo. Right? Briefly, likes mean have something to do that you enjoyed so much. Irika elaborated as he made a circled motion on the air. Obviously changed into teacher mode. Reading, gardening, hiking, eating, sporting, shopping, or even training. Naruto didn't say anything. Irika waited patiently. Naruto is now thinking even though the boy lacked of any of his emotion. Irika quite surprised himself. He managed to read the blonde's face a little bit given how short their meeting is. Seeing how the progress is going, Irika gave himself a good clap at the back. Finally, Naruto replied after a silent moment. Watching. Eyebrow shot up and confused. Watching? He queried. Naruto nodded. Of all things he picked that, what does that even mean? Like what? Naruto turned his gaze from the desk then to Irika. Sky. Sky? What is he, Shikamaru version 2? Only that lazy boy is a cloud watcher. Why? Because I feel peace. Irika froze. He looked at Naruto who had his head turned toward the window. Peace? He didn't expect that answer. Every kid's he'd asked about their likes. Reading books, playing football, shopping. All of them said it is a good way to kill their bored. It's better than doing nothing. But Naruto, what did he mean by that? Wait. Those who had the hardest past often quote that words. Peace. 1. The absence of war or other hostilities. 2. An agreement or a treaty to end hostilities. 3. Freedom from quarrels and disagreement. Harmonious relation. 4. Public security and order. 5. Inner contentment. Serenity. So far, this is the only thing he know about peace. Did that mean Naruto had a hard life too? But what could possibly a 12-year-old boy like him lived in the past? Which kind? Sure it won't be that bad? The ray of evening light shone across Naruto's face. His strand of blonde tail hair ruffled by the breeze gently like a mother cares her child, which glow his entire feature. Damn. He's so beautiful. And his eyes once more turned from ice to warm. He wondered what would Naruto be like if he shows his emotion. That's good. Though what he didn't expect is that Naruto turned to him, and Iruka saw through his dull eyes. Surprise. Good. He finally knew how to read his reaction, and it's kind of excited him. He had never do therapy thing before, but he willingly do this if it mean to help his little young mysterious blonde pupil. Now, where do you live? East District. East District? Isn't that where the worst town in Konoha located? And the danger are too high. Not a place to where a kid like him should have lived. Why would he live there? What about your parents? My parents. Naruto paused, head titled to his side. What parents? Okay, this is getting ridiculous. He didn't even know what parents mean. Iruka furrowed his eyebrow in concern, as if afraid the boy's answer. Your mother and your father that is taking care of you, and they are precious to you? Precious. Peoples that you love very much? Love. Holy shit, sorry, he rarely curse. A strong feeling that you have when you like somebody or something very much, Iruka whispered, slowly. Blue eyes turned dull, no longer warm like a minute ago, and Iruka's heart dropped. Naruto stared ahead and replied in monotone voice, I have no parents as you described, Iruka-sensei. I was alone from the day I was born and have no one else besides me. Birds chirping happily at outside the academy. The trees lose their leaves carried along the invisible dirt appeared on the air by the breezy wind. There's a long tense silence in the class with only 2 occupants. Iruka stared with wide eyes, mouth slight apart. Shocks clearly shone on his face. No. No way. Naruto is an orphan? No wonder he doesn't know anything about love. He didn't even have anyone to teach him. But that didn't explain everything about his non-emotions. Then how do you live your life? Did anyone tell you what to do? Iruka stammered. He desperately want to know about Naruto's life. Naruto's bang fell and covered his eyes, whispered in low. Protect this village and die for this village, for I'm a weapon for this village. Kami-sama, what kind of sick twisted peoples told this kid about such cruel thing? Iruka thought as his eyes stung. Tears about to escape, but he held it back. Before Iruka asked him further, Naruto stood up and cut off his words. I apologize for my rudeness, but I must leave now due to a circumstance, he said back with his dead voice. Iruka startled, looking outside the class. The sun is already gone from the sky along the faded color horizon. Looked at his watch. No wonder the sky's starting to get dark. It's already 6:12 p.m. He too stood up and fixed his seat. He smiled nervously as he faced the blonde who's waiting for him to say anything, which he did. Sorry for giving your time with me. I just want to know you, that's all. Pon heard that. Naruto's body froze. Iruka want to know him? Why? Huh? Why do you want to know me? Iruka shrugged. Nothing. Just want to get to know you. Nothing much. Am I bothered you much? Naruto stared him a little longer before he replied, No. He turned and walked toward shadowy corner as he whispered, Not at all, then vanish in the dark, leaving no sign of the blonde. Iruka stared at the spot where Naruto had vanished, totally surprised on the technique the blonde used just now. How in the world did Naruto know about flickered technique? Perhaps Naruto is more than meet the eyes. Chapter 4. Different yet the same. The next day after Iruka chat with Naruto in the class on the evening, everything back to normal. Well, normal as it is. Naruto sat on the same chair like yesterday and listed down the note while Iruka taught them the history of their late Hokages. Iruka was startled when the blonde was listening the history fourth Hokage, with sparks shone on his blank eyes, which only Iruka noticed. Admiration. Other than Naruto, only few of them who were actually concentrated on the lesson while other kids doing something unrelated with class. Iruka still remembered the conversation he had with the third this morning. Flashback. So, Hiruzen was reading the report from Irika, who had arrived 20 minutes ago. You finally able to talk with Naruto, huh? Hiruzen must say he was impressed with Irika's ability in approaching Naruto without beaten into bloody pulp. Yes, Hokage-sama, the brunette Chunin said as he sat comfortably on the couch across Hokage. 2 cups filled with tea was on the desk. He doesn't even realize that he made a joke. Well, that's certainly how Naruto was supposed to be, but there are some of his answer that confused me. Upon hearing that, his ears perk up, eyes turned sharp as he looked up. Like what? I've asked him about his likes. He was confused, and I suspected that Naruto doesn't know what likes is. After I elaborated the meaning, he said he liked watching the sky. When I asked why, he said he felt peace. So, Danzo forced the boy to do something that made him restless, but did not educate him about the humanity and feeling. One more thing, especially this one, he had no idea what parents is. Hiruzen grimaced. Poor boy had never got the chance to learn about life. All he says was to protect this village and die for this village, for he's a weapon for this village. What? Eyes widen in shock. Naruto said that? Yes, Hokage-sama. Irika's eyebrow knitted in worried. Among the kids he have in his class, Sasuke was the only kid he knew who has the worst past. Naruto can be the second person after Sasuke. Speaking about his past. Hokage-sama? Yes, Irika-kun? Irika hesitated to ask, but taking a few deep breaths he did. Could you tell me a little more about Naruto so I could understand him even a bit, please? Upon hearing the desperate yet innocent question, Hokage took pity on the man who had confused expression adored on his face. He sighed. Really, as much as he wanted to tell him about the boy's life, he can't. Well, it is ranked as S-class secret. If Irika know this through him, the man would either reject the boy or maybe even ignore him for the rest of the months until he graduate. That is if he can graduate. But Irika aren't that kind of man. He's a kind teacher and took good care of the kids. Maybe he can help him through by reveal it? He sighed, again. Seriously, he's too old for this shit. He really needed to find his new successor, then retire. No stress, no meeting, and especially no paperwork. If that's ever happened, he can live happily through the rest of his life. What a heaven. But first, arg. Screw these damn shit. Damn it all to hell. No offend. Alright. Irika eyes lit up. He finally get to know Naruto. But this is an S-rank secret. Meaning you cannot reveal this information to anyone no matter what without my permission. S-rank secret? But he nodded anyway. He rested his pipe on his desk along with the report, casted a privacy jutsu in the office in case anyone eavesdropped, gazing outside through the window. His eyes turned glassy as he remembered the moments he had with Naruto before that incident happened. Naruto is actually a good boy and always show his emotions to express his feelings. He was an enigma, a sunshine ball, and would bounce from here to there, calling me Gigi, 'cause he hadn't know who I am yet. But that's okay, 'cause I'll like it. He smiled fondly at the memories. Good old days. I would always took him to a Chiraku whenever I have my break. He often talked about wanted to be Hokage to make peoples recognize him, accept him, and respect him. Those were his dream after all. Irika listened in awe. He would have never thought that Naruto was that energetic and… Gigi? Was he really that fond at the old man? And to hear that he was different and filled with emotions. Then what happened to the Naruto now? Naruto was full of happiness. Smile, grinned, and laugh. He always did. He was once a prankster. He sometime would paint the faces of Hokages on monument with different kind of colors. It was kind of funny how no Chunin, Jounin, or even ANBU can catch the little him, just no one. He may look like an idiot, but he can be smart when he wanted to. People often underestimated him, so there's no surprise if they were caught off guard. And his speed. You can say that his speed could rival Guy's. Irika smiled with mirth. He can imagine with Naruto ran off after pranked on someone causing people chase after him. What an adorable sight. But the temperature in the room suddenly dropped. Hokage's voice became low and sad. An unfortunate incident happened 7 years ago, At night on his birthday, he was kicked out from orphanage and was being abused in a lot of way by mob of villagers until inch of his life because of something he had yet known of what he did. What? Irika went rigid. He was shocked to hear that this innocent boy nearly died at the hands of the villagers themselves. How could they? They, however, broke one of my rule. They called him with that forbidden name around the boy. These actions had caused him turned hysteric. The brunette's hands gripped his pants tightly. He was infuriated at the villagers' action. This was the thanks Naruto gets as reward after helping the fourth to keep the monster sealed inside him from rampaging? However, they stopped as soon as I arrived and sent them all to interrogate by Ibiki. Ibiki? Irika inwardly shuddered just by hearing that name. Peoples already know what kind of man is him, and no one, safe for most of them, dare to oppose the man. Then Naruto was sent to hospital and nursed by my chosen doctor since others has attempt on sabotage his healing process. But when I went to check on him, he was gone. He froze, eyes slowly met with Hokage's. He was gone? How? He was kidnapped. Kidnapped? He was kidnapped by none other than Root Nin under Danzo's order. What? He was kidnapped by Danzo's damn Root Nin? I know it's bad. We didn't know that he was kidnapped, 'cause it happened at the same night. However, Naruto was found 2.5 years later when he was in assassinate attempt me. What do you mean? You see, Naruto has been put into Danzo's program for 7 years. Imagine, what kind of life did he went through? Root, an organization, required a lot of potential people, usually kids, and train them into strong ANBU nin. However, their methods are cruel, a way for them to make them used to the gore scene. What worse, they were trained fully until they were boneless and in comatose state, torture them if they have to, gets rid of their emotions until they fulfill the head root's taste. When that finally happens, the head root would give them assignment telling them to complete without leaving any traces. If they fail, they die. If they success, he would send them to complete other tasks. They would stay in their own given room when they have no given assignment. Each room was monitored by Danzo himself. Slowly and eventually he'd turn them into emotionless tool. Wait, if Naruto was put in Danzo's program, no wonder Naruto's state unstable. It was particular Danzo's fault. But I thought Root was disbanded several years ago. It is, but he continued his program without my permission. Then why didn't you arrest him? 'Cause Irika-kun, we don't have enough proof. But Naruto was found right, so you must have called one of Yamanaka clan member to access his brain? We did, unfortunately even they couldn't get into his mind. There's a complicated seal was put on his head. A seal that prevent any of them from reaching his mind. Danzo must have known that we were searching for the Warhawks false the whole time. All the information that related to that man, missions, conversation, and whereabouts of his root base were completely sealed. Irika's shoulders slumped down, head hung down, eyes widen in shock. Naruto'd been through so much pain and totally broken. After we make him unconscious, we casted a sleeping jutsu on him for few days and called Jiraiya from his traveling to check the boy. He told me that he cannot undo the jutsu, but he can modify the seal a bit. He succeeds, but only a slight. The only part that we managed to access was the jobs outside the village Naruto was given to complete, mostly about interrogation, kidnapping, and killing. None of Danzo's face shown on the images. What we're aware of was, compared with other Root Nin, every assignment he'd received was suicidal and the only one that doing in solo. They did not care if he were dead in mission or caught by enemy to interrogate. One slip would paralyze him, and if any other mind invader intruded his head, his brain would either freeze or explode, which automatically end Naruto's life and take the secret along with him. Irika shocked in horror. So, you just let this man off the hook? I'm sorry, but even if we did catch Danzo, we don't have any solid proof that he is guilty. As much as I hate it, it's true. He ordered his underling to do their dirty jobs for him. Unless he was caught in action, he cannot be touched. That didn't make the brunette Chunin feel okay, at all. Therefore, We can only put Naruto in ANBU and work for me so he can be supervised by me by the name of Kitsune. Irika nodded slowly. ANBU. That's a good solution. Identity hidden, face hidden. Hidden in the shadow. Wait. Come again? What was the third saying again? Then click. Naruto was an ANBU. Hokage was grateful for the deceased second Hokage for teaching him how to use privacy jutsu, or else someone would have heard the outburst and barged in and demand some answer. Kitsune. Where did he hear that name before? Wait, that's a guy with fox mask and most deadly ANBU. Kitsune, a shadow plan ANBU. He is very skillful, untouchable, unseen if he wanted to, and one of the most excellent ninja in Konoha. Rumor says that he is powerful, more than Kakashi no Sharingan and Itachi Uchiha. However, no one knows who he is for he always wore his mask to keep his identity from being discovered. No one know what he looked like, not even the elder, the council with the exception of Danzo, and the rest of the ANBU who also once in a while working with him. He would not obey others other than the third as he only works for Hokage. His loyalty laid on the old man. Kitsune? As if the legendary ANBU Kitsune? Hokage nodded his head, though he was surprised that Kitsune was so famous until the news spread like wildfire around Konoha. Even in his unstable state, that boy still has his element surprise. Wow, you mean that Kitsune was Naruto all along? Irika awed, you can practically saw the stars on his eyes. He didn't know that Naruto was actually Kitsune, and meeting him is an honor for him, which mean he was the first that know who Kitsune is. He squealed in delight. Man, he was lucky to know about the ANBU's real identity. But then, if Naruto is an ANBU, then why? He was sent to academy and out from ANBU upon my request. Seeing the man confused, he explained. He had been through much. Lonely, loveless, shunned, hated. Don't you think he should at least lived a new environment? Well, not a complete truth, but nearly enough. The rest is up to Irika on handling the boy. Irika wanted to protest but halted. Naruto have been through much with worse past, worse than Sasuke's. And he suspected Hokage keep something more from him. He was sure that the third still have yet telling him the boy's whole story just by seeing the wise man's tense shoulder. But that's for later. If Hokage didn't want to tell him, that mean he'll just have to wait for Naruto willingly to give in. The sun rays up hanging on the sky, and it's time for Irika's new class to begin. He sighed as he gazed up the sky. I guess so. End of flashback. He sighed, the class was finally over, and his pupil has gone back to their home. He was now in the office grading the homework that has been submitted earlier. His concentration, however, was not on his work. He still can't believe that Naruto was actually ANBU, and the legendary Kitsune no less. But then, to go through that kind of life, his movement slowed before eased to a stop. 4:36 p.m. Time shows on his watch. He was the only one that stayed in the office. The evening ray light traveled from his left through the window, shone over the room as the unsolid shadow casted at the side. Ceiling fan spin in average pace above him. Other than the tick-tock sound from the clock, silent was the only company he have. He sighed. Now he knew a part of Naruto's life. Then what's next? It's not that he can just find the boy then tell him everything is going to be okay and he'll back to his usual self in one go. That will take a lot of time to recover from that trauma, maybe years, or even decade, maybe forever. Head fall on the table with a soft thump, not carrying the papers scattered on his desk. Damn. All of this was just too much for him to bear. He groaned. What am I supposed to do with him? He was lucky that no one was here to hear his whining. Though he was talking to himself, so what's the deal? He locked the door after everything was finished. He put the keys into his pocket before he set off to his apartment. He halted stiffly before he was completely passing the class he usually taught. He frowned, then slowly, tiptoe on approaching the frame door. He peeked, with eyes visible looking inside the class. Out of all usual things he has seen, this is not one of them. Inside the class, there's two occupants. Naruto, as usual, sitting on the back with book on his hand, two others at the side of his table. The other one, standing at Naruto's left with broody face, head duck but style and blue-white outfit. Surprisingly, it was Sasuke. The Ice Prince Raven was the one that approached the blonde first. That's new. Both boys had never speak with each other, so why now? More importantly, why would Sasuke stayed behind till evening? Was he here just to talk with the blonde? Shifted his body to a comfortable position. He hid behind the sliding door, masking his chakra to minor so none of them would notice that he was eavesdropping. He doubted that. Knowing Naruto, he must have sensed Iruka's presence since he was an ANBU and all, though Iruka knew that Naruto would not reveal his position just like that. Now, let's hear what they're talking about. Early. The class was over, the kids starting to leave the room. Iruka packed his thing and also bid them goodbye. Though before he left, his eyes gazed on a certain blonde who sat at the very back and watched the sky. Iruka didn't realize that Sasuke was watching every move he made until he left the room. 12:49 p.m. The room was emptied except the Raven and the blonde. Sketching sounds echoed in the room. Naruto was writing something on his book. Sasuke was reading his notebook. Both sat near the window and never bothered to greet others. Sasuke had chooses to stay behind because of a reason. No, he was not curious about the blonde. No, he did not wanted to talk with other. No, he was not because he wanted to be friend with the blonde. Maybe a little. Okay, fine. He admitted. He was curious, wanted to talk with other, and wanted to be friend with the blonde. Well, of course he is. Not only did this new boy come out of nowhere and entered the academy in less than 6 months. All about the boy was mysterious. However, he did know that this blonde is something else. He didn't know what it is, but he did. It's like Naruto was a magnet and pulling Sasuke toward him. Usually when something like this happened, he just brushed it off and thought of it as his silly imagination. But Naruto was different, and Enigma, arc. Why was everything became so damn difficult? People's always see him calm and broody type, but he was actually a hot-tempered and childish. Not that he would tell this to anyone. He rather sleeps under 6 feet than face the humiliation. But what they didn't know won't hurt them, right? Right. 'Cause he is an Uchiha, and an Uchiha does not these odd behavior. Then again, this is not what he was here for. He was not here to argue about himself or his Uchiha pride. He glanced over his shoulder, found that the blonde had stopped writing and instead he was reading. Eyes narrowed to see the title of the book, No Use, Too Far. Damn, how he wished he has his bloodline limit activate now so he can zoom in the view. What the hell was he reading? The wonder of the words? What's that supposed to mean? Don't tell me this guy's a bookworm. He knew that guy was not a dead last. Dead last, well, not completely. He was just the same as Shikamaru, if not in the same level. Only answer when he needed and show some skill when he have to. Is that the reason why Naruto did just to avoid being surrounded by his fangirls? Damn. He was such a smartass. He too would have done the same if it wasn't for his, again, Uchiha pride. Eyes stared ahead, move elegantly as if he wasn't checking out the blonde. Not that kind of checking out. He looked down and read his own note. It's about the Hokage's history. The first Hokage, Senju Harashima. He was the founder of Konoha before blah 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 blah, yeah, I get it. Second Hokage, Senju Tobirama. He was the brother to the first blah 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 blah, I know. Third Hokage, Sarutobi Hiruzen. He was guided under the first and la whatever. The fourth, Namikaze Minato. He was called as Yellow Flash because of his speed in moving from one point to other. The fourth, Naruto's face lit up if not a little when he was listening about this guy. I wonder why. 20 minutes. 30 minutes. 50 minutes. 1 hour. 1 hour and a half. 2 hours. The clock tick-tock, time passing by. Neither of them moved from their spot. 2 hours and a half. still not moving, only the sound of flipping page from Naruto. Sasuke had long stopped reading his note and looked at the wall instead. 2 hours and 48 minutes. 2 hours and 56 minutes. Sasuke glared at the wall with all his might, daring the wall for blocking his sight. Yeah, take that. 2 hours, 58 minutes and 47 seconds. Sweat pouring from the Raven's forehead, but the window from his side was opened, so how come does he felt hot? There's no way that the heat can sweat him this much. 2 hours, 59 minutes and 34 seconds. He gulped inaudibly. Should he do it? 2 hours, 59 minutes and 46 seconds. Maybe he should just leave. 2 hours, 59 minutes and 52 seconds. No, he was an Uchiha and an Uchiha cannot back down from their words. Okay, he'll do it. 2 hours, 59 minutes and 56 seconds. Nah, maybe he shouldn't do it. 2 hours, 59 minutes and 58 seconds. Damn it all to hell, just do it already. 3 hours. Right, fine, he will. He rose up from his seat stiffly, taking a few deep breaths to calm his nerve. He looked at the clock above the blackboard. For 08 p.m. He then turned around numbly. Eyes fell on the blonde boy who was so absorbed on reading his book. He walked toward the blonde boy, eyes still on him. After what seems like eternity, when all he did was approaching the boy in 20 steps in less than a minute. When he got there, he stood beside the blonde boy, hands in the pockets. He had surreptitious look at what the blonde read poem. Eyebrow shot upward on his porcelain face, so he liked to read poem. Is there anything I can help, Uchiha-san? The dead voice startled the said boy as he looked at the owners. Oh wow. His eyes was so blue and once content happiness but gone turned to dull. Realized that he was talked by Naruto, he replied. Nothing. Just want to know why did you stay behind? Okay, that was kind of lame. He hit his head mentally. Couldn't he use another acceptable excuse? Naruto just stared at him for about 5 seconds. It felt like 5 decades to Sasuke. Before the blonde turned his head and resumed his doing. At first Sasuke thought Naruto didn't want to talk before he was replied with monotone voice. Nothing. It is my routine. Routine? What kind of routine is that? The other would go back to their home and telling their parents about something at the academy. So why did he say routine? What do you mean routine? Kids usually return home after school. Don't your parents worried about you for not going home earlier? Flipping movement halted, eyes still on the page. Sasuke suddenly felt nervous and wanting to take his words back. It seems that the word of parents was a taboo to the blonde. Wait, he blinked. Why did he fidget anyway? He was an Uchiha, damn it. Sapphire eyes slowly looked at the raven boy. Sasuke had to repress his flinch from showing visibly when he looked into his eyes. His eyes looked so dead. He sighed in relief inwardly when the blonde turned away. Sure, he is an Uchiha, doesn't mean he didn't scared. If you meant 2 peoples with the titles of mother and father as parents, no, I did not have any of them. Sasuke froze. His body went rigid. Dark orb eyes widened in shock with his mouth slight apart as he stared at the blonde. He didn't have any parents? You mean he's actually an orphan? Since when? Seeing the blonde's confused stare, he added more. I mean, since when did you become orphan? What happened to your parents? Naruto stared ahead. Sasuke waited patiently, surprising that he was the first to ask the blonde a lot of questions. I do not know what happened to my parents. I was an orphan from the day I was born. Then where do you live? How did you live your life? This guy, his life. I live at East District, really, was a lot worse than his. I only live to protect this village and die for this village, for I am a weapon for this village. The ray light shone through the window illuminating over class, enhanced the beauty of the scene. Through the opened window the breeze ruffled both hair, yet none of them talk. To protect this village and die for this village, for I am a weapon for this village, to protect this village and die for this village, For I am a weapon for this village, to protect this village and die for this village. For I am a weapon for this village. Those words shouldn't have left from the blonde's mouth. That was hardly human at all. No one should thought themselves as weapon, as if they were some kind of mindless robot or something like that. Did Itachi thought himself as one too when he was still an ANBU? No, don't think about that man. He was the person that he'd vowed to kill when he gets stronger. Head shook furiously, glanced at the blonde who had started reading his poem. His confused thoughts were pushed aside at the moment when he looked over the poem Naruto was reading. Sorrow. Pain you never forget. Sorrow. Life's true regret. Sorrow. An endless demon who will never quit. Sorrow. The rock in the path. Sorrow. My life's lonely tale. That was kind of deep and full of meaning. Can I borrow that? He asked bluntly before he could stop himself and regret immediately. I mean, after you finish that book, that is. And if you don't want it, that's okay, I'll just... Request accepted. Get off and what? Your request accepted. Naruto repeat. In fact, I had finished one of these books. Therefore, you may have it. He said as he snapped shut the book, then gave it to Sasuke, who kept staring at him dubiously. Right. Sasuke glanced back from Naruto, then the book. He hesitated, moved his hand and accepted the offered book before whispered shyly, looking everywhere but the intent blue eyes, "Thanks." Naruto nodded, before took another poem book. The Words in Pearls, flipped the first page and read. Leaving Sasuke stood aside. In his mind, he was debating on whether to stay with him or go home. But he has no one to greet him in home, so he pulled the chair beside him and sit down, flipping the first page and read. Both sat comfortably without saying anything. No conversation needed, for they enjoyed each other's presence and peaceful moment. Irika was surprised that Sasuke took the offered book. He was more surprised when Sasuke sat beside Naruto and read together. He straightened his back and pondered their conversations. Both kids stayed late. Sasuke's curiosity routine was Naruto's answer parents issue orphan. Both boys has the same in common. They too are orphans. Dead/no parents, loneliness. It seems that Sasuke had finally found someone who has the same pain as his. If he ever knew what Naruto's that is. But close enough. He sighed inaudibly, then chuckled soundlessly. Hands on the hips with head titled to his side. An eyebrow rise in amused as he smiled cheekily. This is getting interesting. Chapter 5, Sky and Cloud. A week. It's been a week after the officially meeting between Naruto and Sasuke. During that period, Irika found the changes in Sasuke. Not much, but visible to notice. Instead of brooding all the time, he used his spare time to read the book. If Irika remember correctly, it's a poem, and ignored his surrounding except when he was around Naruto just to talk and during classes. His dark and angst aura that kept swirled around him whenever he went had lessened. He still won't talk with others unless he has to, and away from his fangirls. No matter how much he ignored them, they kept coming like magnet. Briefly, the Sasuke before slowly faded away. All thanks to Naruto. Ever since the third informed him he has a new kid in his class, Irika thought that this kid was the same as Kiba. Well, judging by the name he read, of course, it sounds bright. Or should it be cheerful? But once he met the boy, his predicament turns out to be wrong. Naruto, from what Irika had seen, the boy lost all of his emotions. His movement autopilot as if someone was controlling him. He isolated himself away from others and always quiet. Not once did he seem interact with anyone, which eerie in Irika's opinion. This type of behavior would have turned Irika into mother hen. He would never admit that, had he not told by the Hokage himself. Those two, both the same in different situation. After the massacre 4 years ago, Sasuke hadn't been the same anymore. He became distant, Dark and angst swirled around the raven boy. No more happy face and always gave a cold shoulder to others. He only talk when it really necessary, but even his voice void any emotion. And his eyes, his obsidian eyes filled with hatred, betrayal and anger, all because of certain man, his own big brother. Outcast from the day he was born, shunned because of his appearance, hated because of what he is, calling him names with loathed disgust, beaten until the very inch of his life, all because of a certain tenant inside him. And what worse, he was kidnapped by a certain program they had yet to know and only found through a dreadful circumstance after years. By the time they save him, it was already too late. A coin with different sides. But there are two things Irika were sure of. Both of them have gone through pain and loneliness. Right now, Irika was standing behind the door as he peeking at the boys with his chakra completely masked. The class starts at 8. Naruto's here exactly at 6, followed by Sasuke after 10. It's their daily routine. The room was dark, but the soft light peeping through the window clearing the sight. The duo, not including Irika, sat at the back of the class. Since the seats were modified as staircase, it was easy for Irika to see their interaction. Sasuke sat next to Naruto's right with the blonde next to window. While he stared at nothing particular with his arms folded on his chest, it was obvious that he was listening to Sasuke, who was reading something. His deep yet boyish voice echoed on the air, captivated the brunette's heart. Asterisk, do you think I like feeling this? Afraid to look in the mirror and see a complete and total stranger? Do you think I like looking at the shattered glass and wondering if that's what my heart looks like? Do you think I feel like abandoned and confused? Do you know how hard it is to look into a mirror and see imperfection? To hate to wake up in the morning, to hate doing the same things over and over again? To keep wearing this mask, hiding who I truly am, being afraid to face the world and the evil in it? Do you think I like it? Wow. Never in a million years had Irika heard Sasuke speak anything with passion. Heck, he'd never heard or seen any Uchiha in his youth, while they were alive, show their emotions outwardly. Scowl, maybe, arrogant, always, anger sometimes, stoic, completely, but other than that nothing. And he could have sworn that he saw a flicker of sadness in the raven eyes. Mask? She'd been through whatever horrible past she lived, but she kept pretending as someone else. Why didn't she just reveal who she really is? There's no need to hide her true self, Sasuke asked, surprising the brunette Chunin. He was asking to Naruto. He had never asked anyone before. Mask. Inside Irika's head, you can see his cute little chibi flipping the page of his brain dictionary to find the meaning. With a high-pitched mental sound of aha, he made a short summarize. There are 3 meanings of mask. 1. Something that you wear that covers your face or part of your face. People wear masks in order to hide or protect their face or to make themselves look different. 2. To cover or to hide your face with a mask. 3. To hide a feeling, smell, fact, etc. Just like someone he knew. Now that he think about it, he wonder, why would the Cyclop wear a mask? You see, Irika might look boring, but his imagination can be illogically wild. Would it be punctured fish lips? Or big lips? Was it big teeth? Maybe he has tentacles lips? Creepy. Not everything can be revealed. What do you mean? Head shot up as Irika stared at the blonde with confused look. What was Naruto talked about again? Naruto, who had been silent from the start, replied with the same flat tone. Secrets. Secrets. Yes, some secrets are better left unknown until it ready for revelation. Irika know the reason, but he wanted to hear the answer from Naruto himself and see how well Sasuke take it. Seeing the raven boy become silent, Irika took it as a not really well. I don't get it. Arms unfolded before it was rested on the desk as Naruto leaned forward. He slowly turned his head with his gaze on the Uchiha. Uchiha-san. The said boy looked up and was forced to bite his tongue from yelping as how intent the stare from the blonde. Why yes. He mentally slapped his forehead. Great, now he's stuttering like that Hinata girl. He even blushed a bit, too. Just great. Irika was flabbergasted. He couldn't believe his ears. Did Sasuke just stuttering? A second time of wow. Who would have thought? Sasuke Uchiha, a well-known stoic avenger with cold heart, pro in using his infamous Uchiha glare to scare people off so not to mess with him, can be a timid, nervous little boy. He chuckled soundlessly. That was cute. Do you have a secret? Sasuke stared at him in confused. Me? Secret. Naruto gave a small nod. Eyes never waver. A secret that only you know and nobody else. Sasuke blinked at the sudden change of subject, but shrugged it off as if it was nothing. He pondered his words. Secret. He does have a secret. A secret that he didn't want anyone to know. But he also wants anyone to know, without talking to any of them. If that makes any sense. Well, I do have a secret. Is the secret of yours really that serious? I guess maybe, I don't know. Have anyone asked you about your secret? Sasuke scrunched his face as he think. Did anyone ask him before? Meanwhile, damn, that was cute. Irika squealed soundlessly as he mentally dances. He almost jump out from his temporary hideout and run forward and bear hug him, then telling him how cute he look and wish he could take a picture of this cute sight. Without that dark and cold attitude of his he usually using, Sasuke is a cute little Uchiha with his cute thinking little face. Right? What? It's a rare chance to see Sasuke acted like how a normal kid should be, you know. And he likes cute things. Back to the boys. They did. Especially those rabid fangirls. Sasuke deadpanned at the last part. A flash of bubble pink gum and bleached blonde images in his head enough to make him scowled. There's no way he would tell those insufferable creatures his secret. There's no way. He will protect his secret even it would cost his life. Bring it on, evil bitches. Rabid fangirls? The monotone voice snapped Sasuke out of his not-so-cool thoughts. He coughed behind his fist with a tint of reds on his cheeks as he looked at a dam. He's still not used with that dead-looking face, even though Sasuke's face void any readable emotions. Blank face from Naruto. As if you're enthusiastic admirers? Oh no! Hands instantly waved in front of him. Sasuke shuddered as he tried not to think of those so-called admirers with their claws out. Oh dear lord. No, please don't jinx me. No, those are not my admirers. They're more likely my stalkers. A bunch of creepy, evil, moronic, annoying, ridiculous witches. Wow, that sure is long. Irika grimaced at the harsh words used to describe the Raven's fangirls. Well, he couldn't really blame on the boy for his unintentionally popularity, right? Eerie, maniac, strange creatures that were referred to my stalkers, which is not my favorite people. Not a nice experience. Yes, indeed. Irika nodded with dramatic sympathy. He remembered during his youth in academy, one of his classmates, Shindo, experienced the same thing. No, Irika was not a friend with him. He didn't even talk with the other boy, just nod in greeting and, yeah, nothing more. But still, he felt pity for him. What can he say? With auburn emo hairstyle, green sharp eyes, fair skin and packs of muscles. You get the drift. Until Shindo get traumatized after few dreadful incidents that happened to him. Would you like to know? Do you like been asked for a date by 3 different girls more than 50 times each day? Yes, you are. Do you like being clinged by them around you saying, I love you, and those lame sickening confession? Oh, don't smug on me. Do you like being groped at unappropriated place, by girls no less? You like it, don't you? Do you like your laps been sat without your permission? Got a hard on. Do you like to hear their annoying whining? You probably not fond of this. Do you like been stalked anywhere you go, even in the men restroom? Now who's pervert? Do you like you manhood threaten if you don't marry them? If you want to be a girl that is. Last but not least, do you like been kidnapped out of the blue? thrown into some unknown dark room and almost get raped by sadistic obsessive fangirls just to bear your child? Still too young to be parent. Definitely not. All Naruto did was stared. Such creative words you chose, Uchiha-san. A tint of red slowly crept to Sasuke's pale cheeks before he coughed into his fist, tried to cover his embarrassment. Well, that air, that was nothing. So cute. Stars practically dance on Irika's eyes. Why? Sasuke, confused at the question, why what? Why didn't you tell them? Sasuke snorted. There's nothing they can do but troubles. What kind of troubles? They won't leave me alone. How so? They think I'm a prince or sort of, and because of their ridiculous imagination, they become obsessed with me. They constantly ask me out for a date, declaring their love to me, wearing some stupid dress just to impress me, and don't forget the unpleasant smell perfume on them. At first I thought nothing of that, simply told them that I'm not interested. But it kept getting worse from time to time. They become wild, which completely scare the shit out of me. Sasuke almost add but never admitted out loud. His pride won't let him. Irika was surprised when he listened the Raven's story but amused nonetheless. It's good to see Sasuke drop his dark attitude even for a moment and talk something to the blonde. Since I'm from a wealthy clan and not to mention I'm the only survivor, he slightly winced at the word of survivor. Irika noticed, so Sasuke, still not used to the said word. I have all the Uchiha's fortune to myself. Unfortunately, a lot of people tried to get their hands on them. Despite the kindness they show to me, I can see the greed in their eyes. That's why I didn't tell them my secret. I see. Have you ever thought of telling anyone of your secret? I did, but... His look downcast, hands rested on top of the opened book on the desk as he whispered, none of them deemed to fit. What kind of people do you prefer to tell? And who? People that won't judge me for who I really am, people that didn't obsess toward me because of what I have, and people that I can trust and earn my respect. And you are one of my preferences that I would like to tell. What? You want to share it with me? A small nod was all Naruto need. What is your secret? Rustling clothes can be heard as the Raven boy shifted his position. His head still hung down. Irika should leave now. He really should. Sasuke did say that he didn't want anyone to know his secret other than Naruto. It's rude. And he knows not to pry other people's life more than he should. He straightened his body and took a step back. I'm alone. But halted stiffly at the answer. Alone. Another nod. How? I have nobody else to turn to. I thought you have your fan clubs and the villagers' company? They fake. Scowl appeared on the pale face. They only faked their concerns just to be on my good side. They praised and worship me as if I'm their highness, but all they care is their own self, not mine. They only care for their own being. So, Sasuke finally see through the villagers' Yes, Irika knew this fact for a long time, even before Sasuke was born. Uchiha was known as a wealthy, powerful clan and have their own authority. Because of this common fact, a lot of people have tried numerous methods to get themselves into their rank and position but failed miserably. They didn't call as Uchiha for nothing. Though after that incident, people starting to make their move on the last survivor, which dreadful worse than ever. What do you want? I don't want to be alone. I need someone to stand my side. I need someone to understand me. The last part was whispered sadly, and from the angle where Irika stood, he saw the expression on the boy. A sad and lonely child. Why didn't you show your true self? Sasuke sighed. Uchiha never sigh, but he sighed nonetheless, for he thought no one was here aside Naruto and himself. Oh, how wrong that was. You don't understand. We, Uchiha, do not show emotions. It was a sin, a weakness, and weakness makes us weak. Uchiha does not tolerate with those kind of mistake. Therefore, any Uchiha that break those rule would be shunned aside. Of course, that was a secret among Uchiha. People from outside didn't know about this fact. Sorry, but there's also someone else know, unintentionally, about this secret of yours, Sasuke. But to outsider, they thought it was our prides that won't let us Uchiha show any emotions aside from anger or stoic face. He blinked twice before he added, well, for the most part, it's true. However, for me, it was just a mask to hide my true self. Eyebrows furrowed as he trailed off. Now where have he heard this before? He could have sworn he had read the same line of the book recently. Mask, hide true self. Now you have your answer. Sasuke startled at the odd reply and could only give a brilliant answer, huh. You have your question answered. The raven looked at the blonde with confused eyes, who only stared ahead without blinking. What do you mean about my question answered? Naruto said nothing but merely titled his head at the book on the desk before Sasuke. Took a little time for Sasuke to notice what Naruto was trying to tell. You and the poet of this poem were the same in different situation. Me and the poet? The same in different situation. Sasuke stared hard at the blonde. Did Naruto mean to say that he and the poet of the same poem has the same reason? You disguised yourself as others and buried your true self in you. It was all for personal reason that you do not want to share with others. You know the consequence if anyone happens to know your secret. To have your secret, you need something from them in exchange so you would not being betrayed in the end. The same goes for her. Sasuke listened intently to Naruto's elaboration. Finally catch the drift. Was that the reason why the raven paranoid? If that's even a right word to use around people's most of the time? By need something from them in exchange, did Naruto mean trust? Did that mean he trust Naruto? To be honest, he did. Why? Naruto knows Sasuke well enough. Naruto completely understood Sasuke even though the blonde didn't look like he did. Naruto knew the feeling of pain even though the blonde didn't show it. Naruto saw the mask Sasuke wore, which he only knew just now he actually did, because he too have one even without the blonde realize. That's why Sasuke told him his secret, because Naruto has earned Sasuke's trust. Iruka smiled and satisfied with Naruto's answer. He grimaced, however, because the answer was completely void of emotion, much to his displeasure. Too serious cannot be accepted. For Iruka, that is, Naruto need to open more and loose up. He'll think something for that later once he done his work. But it finally get into Sasuke. Iruka saw a flicker of understanding in his eyes before it gone later, so the man let it slid this time. All in all, it went well. Speaking of mask, he wondered if the Cyclop has the same reason as Sasuke? Could be though. Why would he wear one if he didn't have any reason to do it? Well, some people did. Aside from his wild imagination of what's behind the Cyclops mask, the man must have a real deep personal reason to not reveal his have for anyone to see. Not much, with only an eye visible and most of his face were completely covered. Iruka sighed. Not only did he learn something from Naruto, know something from Sasuke, he also wondered something about the Cyclop. Oh, how irony. Just like Shikamaru said, troublesome. Somewhere not far from Academy, a certain lazy genius sneezes. Time pointed exactly 8 with the class full of other kids. Sasuke already on his seat before any of them arrived. He didn't want anyone know how well both of them get along. Sasuke knew that Naruto think the same way. Didn't want to cause any riot, right? Indeed, they're really good on maintaining their low profile. No one can see through little act, not even the rest of the teacher except Iruka. But there is nothing can escape from a lazy genius's sharp eyes. Shikamaru. Training, throwing weapon. Iruka was grading the skill shown just now. Out of 5, only 2 hit the red mark while the rest totally out of ring. After that, he called the next thrower and it continued for the rest of the day. Shikamaru was sitting under the shade of the tree at their back near the fence. Now usually he would nap until his turn. However, there's something bothered him and he couldn't pinpoint it. When he looked particular at Blonde and the Raven, he knew something isn't right. He has nothing against them, actually. Blame it on his curiosity, he was just that. Curios, that's all. It's weird, really, especially this time. Other than their sparring lesson, they ignored each other, as if they neglect others' existence. However, while the rest standing at the sideline waiting, the two of them stayed under the shade, a little far at Shikamaru's left. When no one turns their eyes on them, Sasuke approached Naruto and mouthed something at him. Whatever Sasuke say to the blonde, it must be troublesome. Naruto halted and whipped his head to Sasuke, though no emotion shone on his blank face. Both stared each other for a little longer before another words to the blonde and wait. His face, as usual, blank. Naruto stared at weapon target when the kids aimed their weapons, which Shikamaru deemed as thinking. After brief moment, he replied, eyes still on the shuriken that were thrown poorly. Sasuke's eyes suddenly widened, and Shikamaru swore that he could have saw sparks in the Uchiha's eyes. A little, but it's there. Sasuke nodded sharply, biting his lips from doing something Uchiha-like. Smile or grin. Shikamaru confused. What were they talking about? He couldn't hear their conversation through these loud noises from the crowd. He was so lost in his thought that he nearly missed his name called the second time. He stood up toward the post, passing his childhood friend Chuji, a chubby boy with khaki hair in two different opposite angles pointed up, red swirls on his cheeks and chubby face. His clothes were white long scarf around his neck, green shirt, black short pants matching and hugging his chubby body, making him like a bunny. As he picked the weapon with his right hand, his mind kept wandered back to Naruto's and Sasuke's interaction. The way they communicated was different than what he expected. He thought that Sasuke will taunt at Naruto to rile him up so the other would fall for his trap, provoked him to fight him. Instead, they just talk like a normal civilian, and that was kind of weird. He kept thinking and thinking, forgot to act as dead last, until he threw the weapons with unbelievably fast. All five hit the red spot, shocking the rest behind him. Even Irika surprised at the sudden change from Shikamaru. He checked the weapon target twice. No kidding. The lazy genius really did hit the mark, completely full points. Shikamaru. The said boy startled when he was called. He turned to see Chuji, who didn't say anything but merely pointed his finger at his right. He was confused but followed his friend's finger to see people drop their jaw in shock. Sasuke also gave the same reaction but not as bad as others, only eyes wide a little. Naruto the same blank as ever. Once he looked back he groaned. So he got a full point and he? Well, better say something before get bombed a lot of questions by others, he thought. He rolled his eyes as he sighed. So troublesome. Sorry. Got a little sidetrack. He didn't wait for others' reply as he walked back to his napping spot and resumed his observation. Irika recovered quickly from his shock, remembered that he still have other two students and quickly called out Sasuke's name. The said boy glanced at Naruto, who stared him back, giving him a nod before he went to his post. He picked his weapon, slowly took a deep breath with eyes closed. Not a second later, his eyes snapped open. Much like Shikamaru, his arm blurred in motion as he threw them, only it was faster. All hit at the same spot, but because of the pressure that was a little too much, it went past to its back. As usual, completely hit on target, full point. Usually Sasuke would have walked away and ignored his fangirls. This time, however, stood his ground, looking at Naruto in anticipation, though didn't show it on his face. Shikamaru raised his eyebrow in confused. Why is Sasuke stayed and looking at Naruto like that? Wait, was he challenging Naruto? Naruto glanced at the spot where Sasuke and Shikamaru threw their targets. He neared the raven, then mouthed to Sasuke. Sasuke's eyes widened before it hardened. He turned to see their targets and was in deep thought. He nodded. Nobody knows nor understands what they were doing, and it kind of fishy to Shikamaru. Why would they look at his and Sasuke's target? Are they tried to compares who threw the weapon better? They didn't have to do that. He could always be a dead last and let them have the fun. Though I doubt that there's no way they will do something like that. That was a child play for their standard, at least not Sasuke. Naruto still talking. Sasuke occasionally nodded his head without interrupting. He just kept listening. He didn't look like a guy who would fall for that kind of game. Right after he thought that, the two finally stopped. Then Naruto moved away and walked to his own spot. Clear one. Sasuke stay, watching Naruto's every move, intently. Naruto picked the weapons, he's the last one, in the same fashion as Shikamaru and Sasuke. He merely glanced at his target, then, crack. Bingo. No one knows what happened. Nobody knows when he threw the weapon. They didn't even see him move. What got their mind blow was, instead of stabbed, it was actually pierced through, causing a big hole on the target. The pressure was too much and the fake target unable to hold before it fell on the ground with loud thump. The dirt floated and carried away by the wind. Silence hung on the air. No one dared to break the moment. And oh my, the look of their face was priceless, especially Sasuke. Mouth slight opened and eyes widened like the size of a plate. Well, who won't? This was the very first they had seen their weapon target destroyed badly. But not matter how unusual the situation is, Uchiha never give away his emotion. So to see the shock from Sasuke was rare. Before this, Naruto's hits weren't this crazy. He was all but much like Shikamaru. Sometime his hit would be 2 to 3 out of 5. All he did was just threw the weapons carelessly, as if he threw some thrash to the dustbin from afar and goal, lucky hit. But this, he was actually threw it all at once, and it was full points. Wait. Shikamaru frowned. That move. Only experienced shinobis can use a deadly move like that. He glanced at the blonde, straightened his back, and shoved his hands in the pocket before moved towards Sasuke. He whispered something to Sasuke, and the raven boy turned sharp at the blonde, eyes still wide. Just one deadly move like that, the target died before they get the chance to scream. Everybody thought Naruto was taunting at Sasuke of how lame Sasuke was, or something like that, just to make the raven embarrassed. Instead, Saki nodded, listening to Naruto as the blonde occasionally glanced at his own target, Sasuke's and Shikamaru's. Not long after that, they began to move away from the spot and turned to Iruka. Iruka, after recovered from his shocks, smiled brightly at the two, and that got Shikamaru suspicious. Something tells me that they were up to something, or you're just being paranoid. Ugh, so troublesome. Lunchtime. Iruka went back into office. The others were running on the hallway just to play outside. Laughing, chatting, yelling can be heard everywhere. Some play in group, some settled under the shade of tree resting, some reading at the library without being disturbed, and some. You get the drift. Chuki was called to the office, so Shikamaru decided to nap at the roof. No one liked to go there because kids bored easily and doesn't have the patience to stay still, so he was surprised that someone has occupied the place. On the center, lying outstretched on the floor, was Naruto. Resting at his left was his books, red, brown, blue, and an open page of purple marked with black stripped yellow color pencil at the middle. The wind passing by and ruffled their clothes along the pages that was marked flipped to the side but fall back. Hearing the footstep from above Naruto's head titled up made his sight turned upside down. His nose were exposed but still covered by his high collar. His sapphire dull eyes pierced through lazy genius's head, and it was kind of unnerved him. Mind if I nap here? Shikamaru asked, his left hand dangling at his side. Naruto stared before he looked ahead of him. I take that as a no then. Shikamaru moved and to Naruto's left, next to the books. As he lying, he saw the content on that page. Eyebrows raised as he read it. The sky is blue. And black. The sky is filled with clouds and stars. The sky is cloudy and clear. The sky is bright, and dark. The sky is good and bad. The sky is helpful and harmful. The sky is calm and wild. The sky is hot and cold. The sky is lots of things. Funny. So Naruto liked to read this kind of material. A glance at the blonde. Naruto was staring at the sky. To Shikamaru, he looked peace, as if the blonde had been through a lot of troublesome and only a time like this was the thing he enjoyed. Yes, enjoy. Shikamaru has the same look when he was staring at the white fluffy clouds swirled around, changing shape, drifting by. Oh, how he wished he could be one of those cloud, free from all troublesome thing. No yelling, no hitting, no stress, no job, nothing, just drift. As much as he wanted to nap, he still bothered about earlier. He really didn't understand. He thought those two ignored each other, but then why were they talked civilly? As if they have known each other well enough? Unless they were secretly… Wait. Naruto. HN. Wow, even his reply mimicked Sasuke's. What is he, Sasuke version 2? How long have you and Sasuke kept this act? Usually, this sudden question would have startled or froze, then yell, how did you know? Or, you were eavesdropped other people's conversation. But Naruto just stared ahead of him as he replied. A week more or so. HM. Birds chirping as they fly, diving on the air before spread their wings, halted their movement, then flapped to move another way. Why didn't you just let them know that you guys were friend? Aha. What is friend? Shikamaru frowned. That was an odd question. He glanced at the blonde who stared him back. There's nothing show on his face, nothing but blank, like a white paper. Even his voice sounds dead. You got to be kidding me. You didn't know what friend is? A person that you know and like, and who likes you. Naruto turned his head away, resuming his watch at the sky. No, we're merely acquaintance. Acquaintance? But the way you two talk with each other early doesn't look acquaintance to me. He merely requested a show of my performance in throwing weapons. That was all. Oh. Wow. Not only Naruto's an emotionless guy, he knows nothing about bond. Where did you come from? I've never seen you in this village before. This village is where I'm from. The reason for my absence was because of my long-term business outside the wall. I see. First ring echoed around the academy. 30 minutes left before the next class began. Others had starting to return to the respective class, but some are still outside, continued doing their thing. Shikamaru and Naruto didn't move. Why are you napping here? I thought you would have played with other kids or whatever you want. The same reason as yours. Escaped from those loud and annoying noises, but you didn't particularly care about that. I am here to meditate. Yelling and hitting objects sounds lessened before eased down into silent peace. Wind loomed over them, caressing their body. An inaudible sigh escaped from Naruto's lips, but heard by Shikamaru nonetheless. You always stayed behind in the class after the school. Others gone home with their parent. Why weren't you? There's a pause moment before he replied. I have no parent. I'm orphan. Shikamaru stiffed, then relaxed. Then how did you live? Did anyone take care of you or told you how? Naruto sent him a blank, eyes no blinking. before he turned away again and to the sky. I am the only one that taking care of my life, and I live to protect this village and die for this village, for I am a weapon for this village. Shikamaru blanched hearing that answer. What kind of life did he live through to make him say such thing? But no kids should have says like that so easily. Only experienced ninjas embrace those words as their motto. Sure, ninja are tools for their village. But weapon? In this early age? Something is seriously wrong about him. Though, as much as he want to ask the blonde about those words, he refrain himself from doing so. He has a lot of times to solve this puzzle, nice and smooth. Remember, baby step. How do you feel about others? Did you get along? No. Why? They tried to attack me. Shikamaru frowned, confused of what the blonde says. Attack you? What do you mean? I am not sure their reason, but I do know their target is my face. Oh. Understanding visible in his eyes. So that's what was all about. Good thing he didn't join those stupid plan. If they just used their brain and plan a more workable, then they could see his face. Well, just maybe. He glanced at Naruto, who stared ahead of the sky. Through his blank face, Shikamaru can see a little annoyance in his sapphire dull eyes. He chuckled as looked at the thick cloud with a shape what looked like a horse. A game with solving mystery, He smirked, eyes flashed in mischief, and it's kind of excited. Yup, it's worth it. Chapter 6. New Knowledge. Shikamaru, known as the laziest guy who would thought everything was troublesome aside from playing shogi and cloud watching. Or so they thought. It wasn't until 2 months and a half later did Irika notice something more about the boy. Lunchtime. As soon as the bell rang, the door slide opened before the students rushed out from the classroom. The noise echoed in the corridor until it eased down then to silent. While the others having fun outside academy, Irika was on his way to the teacher lounge. Instead of jogging like he usually did, he just took his time by waltzing. He turned to the left where the hallway was at the end of the corridor, then immediately moved back just in time to see Naruto, with his back faced Irika, hands in pockets, slowly climbed upstairs. Chimen odd. His ears picked some noise from downstairs. Footsteps. And it was getting louder and louder. He hid, his back pressed against the wall shielding his body from seen. His files, few books and a pencil case. Held insecure, chakra masked, and waited for whomever the person was to show up. He peeked behind the wall and saw raven hair bounced up and down like, no dirty pun intended. Wow, what an interesting hairstyle. And oh, it didn't take a genius to know whose hair with duck but style was. There was only one person that dared use birdies but throughout academy, and even throughout Konoha Sasuke. Yup, the one and only. He stopped when he reached the top. Irika was grateful for his smart thinking brain for telling him to hide because right now Sasuke was surveying his surroundings. Who know what would happen if he were to found by Sasuke? Probably get a death Uchiha glare. He did not want that to happen. With another expressionless glance, he shoved his hands in his pockets before he went to the same direction as Naruto. As soon as the raven gone, Irika stepped out of his temporary hideout. He scratched at the side of his neck with his free hand since the other one fully occupied. Once again odd. He went stiff when he sensed another presence coming from downstairs. Damn, this is getting ridiculous, he thought after he returned to his sense and hid. He peeked again. Another person with raven hair slowly appeared, but instead of duck, it was pineapple style. Now aside from Irika himself, whose hair had pulled up and tied in high ponytail in academy. As far as he remember, the only person who had this fashion hairstyle, did he mention about the hair was raven before? Was Shikamaru. Why am I not surprised? The said boy finally revealed himself, which, not much of a surprise. A sleepy-looking face with his right hand covered his yawning mouth. Irika vaguely wondered if Shikamaru had ever tripped over or something like that. Irika shook his head negatively. Nah, knowing him he won't. Shikamaru was far from dense to let that happen. Even if he did, he either rise from the floor muttering troublesome, and brush it off as if it didn't affect him much, or just nap right at the spot. Save a lot of work, less troublesome. The boy did not stop his track even though he had reached the same floor as Irika and continued his way up the roof. With a last glimpse of Shikamaru disappeared behind the next flight, Irika finally allowed himself uncovered. Eyes still locking at the staircase with blank face. Several questions clashed against each other in his mind, and all back to main question. What were they doing up there? Shikamaru, understandable. He's a cloud lover, so rooftop was the best place to spend time cloud watching. Naruto and Sasuke? Well, they stick together when they're alone. More like Sasuke went to Naruto. He didn't think those two would choose rooftop of all places though. Maybe they were having fun and only the three of them can play something. Whatever that was, who knows? Then again, the troublesome guy had never seen together with the silent Avenger and the corpse-like blonde. He sighed. Why should he care? He got his own free time and wanted to drop his dead weight and sink onto his chair for once. Irika could just ignore them. None of them was any of his business. Yeah, right, they are my business, they practically my pupils. Still, that didn't mean he had to watch them for 24/7. He refused to be their caretaker. Okay, he's an adult in defined and they were kids. He's older than them and they're his younger fellows. Which mean it was his job and responsibility to watch over them. So? There were plenty of adults in the academy to run the job though, and I'm the one who saw them first. Worst of all, I'm their classroom teacher. Not to be rude, but they were our kids. Kids were just plain annoying and he hated it. Though not completely hate them. In fact, he loved them very much as if they were his babies. Well, only when they crossed the line. So, yeah. All he had to do was walk away. How hard could that be? He should have had walk away. He really should have had walk away the minute Shikamaru out of his sight. Did he ever mention that none of them was any of his business, right? So why was he here, standing in front of the open door, narrowed gap? Like a fucking. He didn't mean to be rude, but desperate time called desperate measure. Statue and sweating bullets like he had ran a long, dreadful marathon? No matter how much he reminded himself that they were not his business, they could take care of themselves and were now having fun without interruption, he just couldn't shake off his unexplainable feeling, if not little, that something bad or good would happen. What if their fun was not the same fun he had in mind? What if they'd turned aggressive? No, screw that. What if instead of fun they were having bloodshed? Definitely not fun. He clicked his tongue in annoyance. He grouchily scratched his neck with his things still tucked under his armpit as he thought. Now look what happened. I end up here without me knowing. He kept ranting in his head that he unconsciously had started moving forward until he nearly bumped into the door when he reached upstairs. You're great. His colleagues were right, one thing about him. I'm such a softie. He wiped his sweaty free palm on his pants. Oh well, no use crying over spilled milk. Better get down to business. He took a deep breath, allowing his body to relax and exhale. Then he peeked. To be honest, he was scared for the boys and wondering what was happening behind this door. Few to several to many to countable to uncountable thoughts, which were not healthy and not suitable for underage of 18 to watch, played in his head. So when he said he peeked, he was expecting to see a gruesome men-air boys fight to death, blood pool, unrecognizable mummy, corpses, flying limbs and heads if possible, internal organ decorations, guts twirled around the rail, pieces of heart lied on the floor, brain pancakes splashed on the door, blah blah blah, or maybe having barbecue, in short, cannibalism. But this was not one of them. 1 cloud, 2 clouds, 3 clouds, 4th clouds. This one's big. That was Shikamaru's thought. His eyes never leave the sight of drifting cloud from where he laid down. He sighed in satisfaction as the warm breeze wrapped him wholly like a blanket. Now this was what he called relax. To his left were his puzzles, Naruto. He was in the same position as Shikamaru, only this time no book on sight. Must be bored just reading his books all day. You don't know how close you are, Shika. Next to Naruto was the so-called Ice Prince, a title from his fangirls. Stuck up in the ass, hater boys, last Uchiha survivor, or the Avenger, adults, Sasuke. The lazy genius admitted he actually quite surprised when he saw the boy lying on the floor without a care. He thought Sasuke, being an antisocial he was, hated other being and would not stay close with anyone. The bastard, as Kiba liked to call, was supposed to be cold towards people and look down on others, as if he was clearly superior to all the others. Then again, Shikamaru craned forward and turned to his left to get a better view of Sasuke. A lazy yet elegant dark eyebrow rose in puzzled. He was told, could be more than he could counted, from his source, or gossip for that matter. Mainly from gossip queen Ino. Whenever Sasuke mixed with others his face would hold indifference look. He would once in a while scowled for some reasons, which Shikamaru gave a moment to wonder if that scowl would permanently stuck on the other's face, and glared with all his might, using his mighty and infamous Uchiha glare, intimidating might I added, to those whoever dared in his way. Sasuke were so cool, macho, always held his cold composure and a perfect boyfriend for the girls. Those whomever he thought were beneath him must bow down for his mercy and worshipped him as God. Well, that was what Ino spouted on and on. Ino could be counted as a reliable source. Just not everything was true. Now, though, Shikamaru found Sasuke's other side where no one knew he had in him. Contrary to popular belief, Sasuke was anything but God, or other sort of nonsense. If that was true then, he would have not be lying here stretched out and staring at the sky with what he thought as a shocking sight. Sleepy, drowsy look? That was supposed to be Shikamaru's look. Whatever, it was too troublesome for him to argue anyway. Moreover, he won't be lying here next to Naruto or Shikamaru himself, since they were described as peasants and all, and he was supposed to leave without a word, not before sneered at them, just like that. Shikamaru let his head drop on the floor with a soft thud and sighed. At least he got something. Sasuke, just like everyone, are human after all. He inwardly chuckled, amused by the thought. So, even Sasuke got pulled by Naruto's charm, in not romance way. He wondered, what else did Naruto hid under his sleeve? Not literally. Troublesome. But it's worth it. Naruto, on the other hand, doing nothing but stared at the sky. Whatever thoughts he had in the back of his mind, nobody knew. Couldn't say the same thing about Sasuke. It was obvious though with the way he eyed the cloud, which occasionally changing their shapes. Bunny shape, carrot shape, heart shape, banana shape, poop shape, boob, shape, yawned, snake, fezzy, shez, fezzy. A soft snore coming from the Ice Prince with eyes finally closed and lips slightly apart. His face that was always frowned or scowled were now relaxed and peaceful, just like an innocent 3-year-old child. The tension from his body gradually subsided. If Naruto and Shikamaru heard the soft snore or saw him fall asleep, they didn't commented. What? Like old saying, silence is golden. Meanwhile, Irika was still standing behind the door with his eyes glued at the he did was stared. His mind crossed nothing but blank before a thought popped out. Well, that was unexpected. Those three were just lying there doing nothing? Or in this case Cloud watching Shikamaru, sleeping, Sasuke, and, unidentified action, Naruto. He sighed soundlessly. Damn, he really thought that something bad had happened to them. He just found out a possibility reason of their meeting. Must be because of their training lesson a month ago. Sasuke hated it, sure he'd changed, but still had his ego. So he chose rooftop to confront Shikamaru and politely asked for a match which one of them were the best, but nothing happened. Instead, this was what lay before him. Hi. He really needed to cut down his lovely horror, oh so delectable, beautiful yet nightmarish gruesome movies time. What? Just because him being a man with a heart of gold and hate to see people getting hurt did not mean he abhorred the horror movies. Plus, it's his favorite rate after all. Although no one knew this fact, not even Hokage. He scoffed. What's with his leader got to do with his favorite rate anyway? Briefly, there's nothing he should worry about. His eyes softened. He was glad to know that they had become friends, secretively. This way they could help and balance each other for some negative issues they had. Sasuke for his dark attitude, Shikamaru for his laziness, Naruto for his emptiness. Emptiness. Out of those three, the last one was undoubtedly difficult. Unlike Sasuke and Shikamaru, who surrounded by everything they had, although the former had them for only a short time, be grateful, okay? Be grateful. Naruto had nothing, his life was filled with nothing but curse. Another sigh. While he was happy with this improvement, it was not enough, especially when it concerned Naruto. What to do? After school. School's over. Just like usual, Naruto and Sasuke stayed in the class that was now empty not long ago. Several books lied on top of their desk. Both silent as they read in mind and heart, with occasional asking questions from Sasuke. Nothing changed. An hour before school closed at 5, Sasuke left. It was after 30 minutes or so that Naruto decided to leave when a familiar voice called out his name. He turned his head to the doorway to see the brunette sensei standing there with hesitate looking. Held in his hand was a small dark green plastic bag. Yes, Yumino-san? Irika managed to refrain himself from cringed visibly. Even after these few months, he still called Irika with formalities, with that dead voice and blank face of his. Are you busy? No. Irika slowly nodded his head while breathing through his nostrils to calm his racing heart. Well, here we go. Well, I was wondering if you want to join me eat out? Naruto stared. A book, red cover trimmed with shiny gold. Poem book, no doubt, held to his chest and backpack carried on his back. The light in the evening were soft, lightened the dimmed room with shadows danced around the surface. The side of Naruto's face and body were glowed with shadows casted on another part. The sight was beautiful, too beautiful to behold, and it would have struck Irika in awe had he not been so busy looking at not so interesting floor and not to make an eye contact with other boy in fear of completely bullshit and overly dramatic. His soul sucked out of his body. Naruto still stared. He stared and stared and stared, which, making the brunette sensei fidgeted uncomfortably under the boy's stare. Really, he felt like a 6-year-old kid who had broken his mother's favorite vase and was standing in front of his mother squirming uncomfortably under her I know you're the culprit but I let you admit yourself stare, waiting for his punishment. How ironic their role had turned table. It's been, 2 minutes? Naruto was still staring at him unblinking. To others it felt like eternity and would have run away with tail between their legs, but Irika was not a coward. No, he was anything but a coward. He just had a hard time to TOTO what to think or do next. Yeah, that's it. He's still nervous though. Look, if you don't want to join, I can understand. I'll just... Request accepted. Leave and the what? Request accepted. Oh. Irika slowly nodded his head as he lowered his frozen wailing arms in the midair. Okay. Well, shall we go then? Before he uttered another sentence, Naruto was gone from his seat. The brunette sensei surprised and just about to make a search then yelped in manly way, when a face appeared not more than 10 inches before him. He quickly gained his balance by grabbing the doorframe while his other hand, still holding the package, rested on where his heart was supposed to be. He closed his eyes as he took a deep breath. Mental note to self, always, brace himself for Naruto's ghost technique. It's just your normal Shushin or teleportation technique, just nothing flashy. Irika opened his eyes and looked at the intruder. The said blonde was standing in front of him like a statue. The background shone by the evening light and directed to Naruto's back, causing his body seemed glowed. Beautiful. Yumino-san. Right? Irika answered, too fast for his liking. Naruto didn't reacted. He either missed it or simply ignored Irika, could not decide. Let's just go, shall we? Naruto complied without replied. Great, now what? Irika kept his head ahead. constantly peeking at the blonde from the corner of his eyes. The said blonde was sitting just right next to him. Hands on his laps, backpack on his back, body straightened and stiff like a pole, eyes stared at nothing particular. Creepy. Both sensei and pupil were now inside Ichiraka ramen stall, Irika's choice, waiting for someone to come and take their orders. In the meantime, his mind wandered off to what had happened back there during their short journey. He'd seen the look from the villagers that had thrown directed to them, mostly to Naruto. He grimaced. What he saw in their Irika did not like it. Almost all the adults have a look of disgusted, anger, and fear. Parents immediately pulled their children to the sidelines while silently told them to stay away from Naruto. Heck, almost people around them stand 10 feet away from them as if they were plagues. Irika could understand their loss of their loved ones. He himself had experienced the same loss 12 years ago. Yes, it traumatized them all. It was, who wouldn't? A demon appeared out of nowhere, suddenly slaughtered everyone within its range, causing a terror in the village. Death smelled in the air and blood covered everything. Flesh was everywhere, which certainly unrecognizable anymore. Scream and cries in horror and agony from those who had stuck in these mess. Can you really blame them? When he caught something from their whispers, though, his eyes that held a warmth feeling dangerously narrowed. He couldn't believe how closed their mind was. And those harsh words. It's sickening. It's that boy. Yeah, that's the boy. It's that demon brat. What is it doing here? It should not be wandering in this street. I thought the Hokage had thrown that creature into the dungeon? That demon brat should lock up forever. Stay away from that boy. It's dangerous. Freak. Monster. Demon. Die, die, die. Irika mentally shook his head to rid those thoughts. All of these words were unforgivable. How could they not see through Naruto that he was not a monster but merely a boy? There was only one word that he could describe them. Disgusting. They were the kind of people that Irika despised so much. How disappointing. Well, time healed wound but not scar, and true to the words. He was shook out of his thought when a voice greeted them. His head rose up and saw a woman, waitress, standing just beyond the counter. Brown long and straight hair held by a white hairband, fair skin, brown eyes, and her outfit were white from head to toe. Around her was her dark brown apron with Ichiraka ramen in kanji words plastered on the front. She was currently asking them their orders. Ramen with beef, please. Irika then turned his eyes to still unmoving Naruto. What about you, Naruto? Don't worry, my treat. Irika was so into Naruto, not in perversely way, that he didn't even notice the waitress went stiff and her eyes dilated. I would have none, Yumino-san. Naruto declined politely. Irika furrowed his eyebrows. No, I insist. Yumino-san, I am not your priority for you to spend your money on. Furthermore, eating is not a necessity for me. Irika faltered his protest. His mouth pulled in tight thin line. A short pause hung in the air. Did Naruto just say something weird? Could you repeat your words? I am not your priority for UT-. No. The last one. Eating is not a necessity for me? Irika licked his dried lips. He looked at the blonde who held indifferent yet wary look, afraid of the answers he's about to hear. What do you mean? Request denied. Naruto denied. Request Denny Naruto, tell me. Irika demanded, fully facing the boy. While the brunette sensei interrogated his pupil, the waitress sneaked away without being noticed. Request denied. Naruto. Request den-. Stop it. Naruto did. He looked at man next to him, a little bit taken back when he saw a look that was unfamiliar to him. What was it? Now tell me. What do you mean by that, before? Naruto wanted to protest, but a hard look from the older man caused him to stop. He didn't know why, but he couldn't help but, impossibly, fall for this man's demand. Demand and order, were they the same? Please, Arika begged. Naruto bit his bottom lip, a sign of being nervous. Arika noticed. I'm a weapon. So? Weapon is tool, a tool to be used. Weapon used for mission purposes. Other than that, the rest is not important. Not important how? Anything that does not concern or involve mission are not listed as important. Okay, this was getting Irika nowhere. Head started spinning in dizziness. None of the blonde's answers made any sense. If anything, it just added more questions. The brunette hair sensei took a slow and deep breath with eyes closed, before slowly opened them. He looked at the boy next to him and cautiously asked him. Naruto, Irika looked directly into his eyes. You said, anything that does not include or even related to mission purposes are not important. You only do the job that was stated in the mission detail. Nothing more or less. Am I right? Naruto stiffly nodded, wondering what Irika's up to. Like, if your mission were to rescue some important people, will you do it? He nodded again. If your mission is assassination, will you kill that person? Another nod. Even the person is someone you familiar with or recognizable? He nodded without a second thought. That's cruel. Irika thought with an unnoticeable cringe. That is totally cruel. He mentally shook his head. Now was not the time to space out. If you're ordered to kill Hokage-sama, will you do it? I will, with the exception of third Hokage. With the exception of third Hokage, Irika wanted to press more until he got everything out but didn't want to make Naruto wary of him more. He could do that later. Right? Irika nodded. Right, okay. Then, those that does not include or state in mission purposes, you mean? It was just too hard to ask the boy without pushing him to the edge. Okay, cut the bushes straight to the point. The man's behavior suddenly changed, which made Naruto tensed. He was more that shock, inwardly, if he was capable of doing so. When Irika laid his hands on his shoulders and stared him with something Naruto still unfamiliar of it. The man's brown eyes that had darker shades suddenly become brighter, as if something had put a light from inside. But that was impossible, right? Naruto, I want you to tell me and answer me truthfully. He paused. Earlier, you said eating is not a necessity for you. Does that mean you did not eat? Yes. Why? I am a weapon. Change of tact. Why can't you, as a weapon, eat? Because a strict rule is solely placed on me, a weapon, that eating is forbidden. Irika's body went rigid, letting the words rolled in his head. Eating is forbidden. What the hell? All of a sudden, the temperature around them dropped to a few degrees, which was completely illogical since the weather was warm and sunny. Eyes that were supposed to be friendly turned to a menacing glare. Naruto did not know if the glare was for him, but he was fully aware of the pain on his shoulders that was gripped painfully. If he were a lesser man-air boy, he would have whimpered like a crybaby, but he was anything but. His once warm, soothing voice no more, and using a barely whisper yet chilly as he speak. Who told you this? Upon hearing that question, Naruto instantly clamped his mouth shut. Noticed the lack of response from the boy, Irika pressed again. He wanted to hear Naruto's answer. Naruto, tell me who. The said boy was still quiet. It was until a moment later did he open his mouth. Request denied. Only to hear another one of his request, as Naruto said, denied. Irika hung his head in defeat with a sigh. Well, he did request, more like demand answers from him with force. If he put more pressure, Naruto might or might not bust and hell would break loose. To be honest, he'd already knew the answer who. He just wanted to hear it from Naruto's own mouth. Guess not everything end well? Okay. The man slowly nodded. Okay. Then he noticed the grips of his hands on Naruto's shoulders before he pulled his hands off as if his hands were on fire. Damn, that looked hurt. But Naruto didn't give any expression of pain though. Iruka felt like wanted to slap himself. Of course, he didn't show his expression. To Naruto, ninja were not supposed to show their emotions no matter how painful they're in. Still, he uttered sorry as he shifted on his seat. Okay, Iruka repeated, looking at the boy with determination yet gentle. Last question. When he finally got Naruto's full attention, he paused. The answer for his question might not pleasant to hear, but he still needed to know. Why were you said that you, as a weapon, forbade from eating? Because weapon beneath human. To human, giving weapon some foods to eat is an insult for them. Therefore, I merely received what was given to me. Like what? Instead of answering, Naruto took something out of his backpack before placed it on the counter. When Iruka looked at the object, his eyes instantly bulged out. One more time. What the hell? The man picked the jar, feeling of disbelief slowly gripping his heart. A jar that was big enough to fill a lot of candies. It did look like it, with rainbow colors. Except these weren't candies. These were food tablets. In a fucking jar: calcium, protein, vitamins, iron, potassium, magnesium, etc., etc. This was what Naruto eat all the time? In pill form? The hell? This should not be called as food at all. Naruto. Eyes darkened. His body posture tensed visibly, and his other hand that wasn't holding the jar fisted in anger. Who gave you this? Naruto didn't answer. Naruto, Iruka warned. Naruto was still not answering, too stubborn to give in. Because of that, all of his anger dismissed and turned it into a sigh of disappointment. The suffocating feeling around the man had gone. Damn, he knew it. It was that prick again. Even though Naruto had saved from Danzo and out of his grasp, he still won't leave the boy's mind alone. He gave the boy a sympathetic look. Poor boy. KTAK. Both customers brought out of their conversation when they heard the sounds of placing something on the counter in front of them. They looked up to see the same waitress before smiled at them. Then they glanced at the counter. It was their meals. While Iruka had ramen with beef, Naruto had ramen with chicken pork. But Naruto didn't order this. The girl didn't reveal anything and just said, "Please enjoy your meal," before she bowed, then retreated to the kitchen. Well, that was weird. Either way, Iruka was grateful for the girl's consideration. He turned once again and looked at the blonde. Naruto, listen. I want you to eat that ramen, alright? I'm a weapon. I should not be given per dash. Right now, you are not a weapon. Iruka cut off, stopping any of the boy's retort with stern yet gentle look. Right now, you are just you. You are a boy who needs to eat some food. I have this dash. Naruto picked his jar that had pill contents but was stopped by the grip around his wrist. Not now. When Naruto didn't reply or do anything, Iruka continued, how about this? Whenever you're around me, you are Uzumaki Naruto, not a secret weapon. Which mean, you are allowed to eat something more edible than those pill. Naruto didn't speak for a while as he stared at the man, and when he did, he bluntly said, I only listened to third Hokage. As soon as the words left his mouth, it was too late to take them back. Oh, wrong thing to say, Naruto. True to his words, Iruka smirked. Oh, don't worry, Naruto. I already have Hokage's support, meaning my words is also Hokage-sama's words. Therefore, if I were to say that you needs to eat ramen, then you will eat. Got it. But dash. No, but you will do as I say. Remember, defying my words also defying Hokage's. Now eat. Naruto straightened his back and faced his steaming ramen. To others, he looked indifferent. Iruka, however, knew better. Naruto was irritated. To be honest, only half of them were true. Yes, he did had Hokage's support, but not to the point of using defying me mean defying Hokage method. He wasn't that brave enough to do so. However, to get Naruto eat something, by all means any methods were welcome to use. He felt guilty to cheat the boy, but it was necessary. And he's right. Naruto began to eat his ramen. A sense of relief flowed through his body. Irika too eat his own ramen. Both eat silently with a little comfortable. When Irika's eyes fall to the package that was lie innocently on the counter next to his bowl, he halted. His mind blank for a moment, not knowing why the heck was there a package on the counter. Then it hit him. Naruto. The said boy halted his movement and turned his eyes on the man. Here. The man pushed the green package lightly toward the boy. I want you to have it. The blonde tore his eyes away from Irika and to the package. The surface was glimmering under the sunlight that had managed creeping through the gap of the red curtains behind them. He stared at the package, at Irika, then at the package before he took it. You can open it once you're alone. Naruto nodded without complaining and put it into his backpack, then continued eating his food. No more words exchanged. Only this time it felt more comfortable. Time sure flew by. Nothing was changed after that eat-out day. Everything went smooth and normal. Well, if you count Naruto's new hobby by observing people's longer than normal which creep the heck out of others, with the book that was gave by Irika as reference book was normal. Other than attending academy, study, submitted their homework, training, sitting with his acquaintances on the rooftop, Irika constantly took Naruto eat out. Everything was completely fine. Before you know it, today was the day of Genin test. Chapter 7 Heads Up. Inside the classroom, Naruto sat quietly on his usual seat, ignoring the noise erupting in the class. He merely observed the students taking the last part of the exams. Early, they had taken written test, kunai and shuriken targeting, 10 targets for each one, 1,000 points for a perfect run, and tournament of spars between instructor and students, individually. Taijutsu only. The battles passed without sparking any interest. The only ones doing anything noteworthy were Aburame Shino, Akamichi Chuji, Nara Shikamaru, Uchiha Sasuke, and Inuzuka Kiba, in that order. Naruto only fought just enough to beat his opponent. The last part of the exam was a ninjutsu test which was currently proceeding. 3/4 of the students had passed, leaf headband tied at their forehead as their proof. However, some preferred around their neck, bicep, waist, thigh, or wherever else they liked. It caused Naruto to wonder why they would tie it anywhere else. It called headband for a reason. And now Naruto was waiting his turn. Sasuke was in another room with Irika and Mizuki for the test. Knowing Sasuke, the Raven boy would pass with flying color, a prodigy and an Uchiha, what else? Everything was fine and he didn't mind with the noise. At least, until the peace shattered by two most loud voices bickering. Shut up, Ino pig. I'll definitely be on Sasuke's team. NUUH, I'm the one who will be on Sasuke's team. No, you're not. Yes, I am. The chatter slowly subsided, and all of the students turned their attention to the sources. Standing in front of Sasuke's empty seat was none other than Haruno Sakura and Yamanaka Ino. Glaring contest in progress and a heat argument on its way. The former had bright pink mid-back hair with bang framed her face and emerald eyes. Her outfit consisted of short sleeves Cheongsam dress-like with white round circle printed on the back matched her knee-length green short. Her forehead protector, the proof she had passed, used as hairband. Her arms folded across her flat chest. The other one had bleached blonde tied in high ponytail passing her waist and pale blue eyes. Contrast to Sakura's appearance, Ino wore pole dark purple sleeveless polar neck dress and wrapping her waist with bandage, including her thighs, and whole white armbands. Her fists rested on her hips with her upper body leaned forward, leaving to no little imagination. Both had gained popularity through beauty and rivalry, added to the fact that they were Sasuke's top admirers. They always tried to get his attention or, even better, to be his girlfriend. Rumors said, though Naruto preferably gathering information, as it was more professional that way, that those two once best friends. But Sasuke's appearance caused them fought and separated. Thus, a rivalry began. The class cheered, screaming fight, over and over again. Such immature behavior gave them an expression to him as animal. Naruto wondered, had they not realized the danger of being a shinobi? Did they know that being one of them was no game? Once they in, there's no turning back. Only death would be their end. Tuning out the noise and meaningless argument, the ANBU in disguise made another observation on some tolerable peoples. Shino Aburame, chestnut spiky hair held by headband around his forehead, wearing sunglasses, lower face covered by high-collar pale blue jacket matching with dark pants. He was sitting quietly on the back of the seat in the second row. Just like Naruto, he made his own observation. Chuji Akimichi, headband tied around his head in underwear wearing style, kind of disturbing sight. He was sitting beside his best friend Shikamaru, who had his head buried in his arms, and eating snacks while watching the fight, not getting involved. Shikamaru Nara, headband tied around his left bicep. He was trying to nap, but failed miserably because of the sudden loud noise. Hinata Hyuga, her headband tied around her neck. A girl with dark blue short hair, pale pupil-less eyes, light purple and white jacket matching her pants. She was the only one that did not chase after Sasuke. What he didn't understand was, she kept shifting in her seat and her face turned red occasionally. What make you think that? "'Cause I'm certain of it. You're just bluffing." "What, jealous?" Their voices were getting louder and louder, along with the cheering, "Fight! Fight! Fight!" from the rest. It made the blonde's ears ringing. Because of certain circumstance, his ears was twice sensitive than others. Thus, to see the boy covered his ears with the intent to muffle the noise at least was no surprise. His face scrunched into scowl. The situation was slowly getting out of hand. Where were the teachers when you need them? As if on cue, the door opened and Sasuke entered with Irika in tow. The cheering stopped in an instant, putting their attention to the newcomer. Irika-sensei using his big head jutsu on them was the last thing anyone wanted to happen. It always took several hours to get their hearing back. For goodness sake. Naruto Uzumaki. Through the silence, the call was able to get through to Naruto, and he dropped his hands. Naruto looked up in time to see Sasuke walking to his seat. Naruto rose and made his way to Irika. Said man saw the blonde and gave a soft smile. As the two boys crossed paths, blue eyes met black. With no one's notice, both gave a subtle nod. As the sound of the door closed, a faint smile surfaced on the Uchiha before he wiped it off completely. Sasuke's mood dampened when his two most annoying fangirls broke their argument and whipped their head, if only they got whiplash, in his direction. Heart shapes already popped in their eyes. Another reason to avoid his rabid fangirls at all cost. Inside jutsu testing room, Naruto waited patiently as he's standing in front of the two Chunin. Irika was having a short conversation with his assistant about something before they stopped and turned back to him. "Okay, Naruto." Irika smiled before taking his seat with clipboard in his hands. His assistant, Mizuki, white mid-neck hair with his headband tied around his forehead, dark narrowed eyes, long face, pale skin, did the same. Naruto pulled his attention away from the man and centered it at Irika once he started talking. "You are required to fulfill these 3 basics. This test is to determine whether to pass you or not. So, are you ready?" A stiff nod was the answer he got. The brunette inwardly sighed but held a smile on his face. "Good. First, henge." Naruto soundlessly made his hand signs before a small amount of smoke appeared and Naruto's shape vanished. Once the smoke subsided, a replica of Irika standing before them. The brunette couldn't help but felt disturbed at the sight of his carbon copy. He looked like a zombie. For Kami's sake, his copy's face bore no emotion just added the bonus. He was so deep in thought that he nearly forgot to mark the boy's score. Next, Kawarimi. Naruto called off the jutsu and switched himself with a potted plant. Irika arched an eyebrow at Naruto's choice item. Out of all things, he used pot plant from outside the room to substitute. To Irika's knowledge, a log was the most commonly used object for substitution, the main reason being the small quantity of chakra needed to use during the switch. Nevertheless, it did not break the rule. The test only required Naruto to substitute with something. A second later, the pot switched back to Naruto and waiting for his next instruction. Naruto soundlessly made his hand signs before he poof with a less amount of smoke appeared. Once the smoke became subsided, a replica of Irika standing before them. The brunette couldn't help but felt disturbed at the sight of his carbon copy. He looked like a zombie. For Kami's sake, his copy's face bore no emotion just added the bonus. He was so deep in thought that he nearly forgot to mark the boy's score. Next, Kawarimi. Naruto called off the jutsu and switched himself with a potted plant. Irika arched an eyebrow at Naruto's choice item. Out of all things, he used pot plant from outside the room to substitute. To Irika's knowledge, a log was the most commonly used object for substitution, the main reason being the small quantity of chakra needed to use during the switch. Nevertheless, it did not break the rule. The test only required Naruto to substitute with something. A second later, the pot switched back to Naruto and waiting for his next instruction. Right, last one. Create 3 bunshin minimum. Smoke appeared each side of Naruto's followed by 3 clones. Irika had a hard time to differentiate which one was real. They looked like a troop of soldiers, albeit only 4 including the real one. Looking at their faces sent a chill down to his spine. Oh no, their faces didn't bother him much, just a bit creepy. It was their eyes. Empty, blank, dull, dead. Scared him. Good job, Naruto. You are able to fulfill these 3 basic. Startled, Irika blinked out of the supposed under hypnosis as he turned to his assistant as the white hair Chunin to the boy complimented with a smile. Naruto didn't reply but gave a nod as he dispelled his clones. Irika wasn't sure if he had eyes problem or something, though he thought he saw Mizuki's fingers twitched, as if wanted to form into fist and ready to punch something, preferably someone that ignored him and, therefore, you have passed the exam, Irika exclaimed with a grin, though it was strained. He didn't know what was going on in Mizuki's head, but they still had the exam to finish. So, he stood up and gestured the teen to step forward. At the same time, Irika lifted a headband with blue cloth from its group that sat on the right side of the desk. He held the item to Naruto, who stood before him with the desk separated between them. Congratulations, Naruto. You are now graduated from academy. Neither of them caught sight of the emotion that flashed through Mizuki's eyes before it was gone, and he covered everything up with a smile. In front of Ninja Academy. By the time the exam ended, it was evening. In front of the building, graduated students were celebrating with their parents. Great job, that's my son. Now you're a man. I'm so proud of you. I'm going to make your favorite dinner. Each of them had either grin or smile on their face as they met each other. Some even laugh, which was odd, at least to Naruto. The teen was standing on the branches of the tree not far from the gate. With the help from the shade, his presence was perfectly hidden from anyone's view. He observed the reactions that he could not fathom. Why would they gain satisfaction over a piece of metal and cloth? Should he also be pleased? Sure, the metal had the leaf symbol carved on the surface, and they should be honored to be wearing it, but did they even understand the meaning? Even if they did, were they truly prepared to shoulder the responsibility upon them? Naruto's eyes never left the sight before him as he drew something out of his pocket. His eyes lingered on the headband he'd received early. What was the reason for them to be happy? Happy? Feeling or showing pleasure for something such as this item? He didn't understand. En route, such action was unacceptable. He had been forced to grasp the rules and reminders strictly so that he would remember all the time. One of them kept repeating in his head, which he would never forget. Once you sign this up, there's no turning back, only death awaits. Konoha. It was night time, though, unlike the usual night, there was no moon or stars to shine upon the village. Not even a single cloud seen. It was dark, like a color of black painted on a canvas. The only light that lit in the dark was from the village, mostly from the street lamps, the buildings and others. People's already went to bed as it was already late, some still up due to their jobs. Such sight was breathtaking and mesmerized, however, not the right time to sightseeing. A shrill ring of alarm rang in the air and all hell broke loose. Once the ninja assembled and were notified related the situation, they immediately found out the reason. The forbidden scroll was stolen. In the forest, a blur shadow was seen jumping from branches to another in high speed. His heavy panting could be heard from the man as he jumped from trees to another, escaping from the ANBU that was no doubt coming for him. He knew he was no match against them. They were more experienced and skilled than him, so he couldn't face them. Even he wasn't that suicidal. He did have some trick under his sleeve if the situation turned to worse. Besides, his escape route was just a few feet ahead of him anyway. Wrapped in his right arm was the stolen scroll. It wasn't easy to steal because of the tight securities around the tower and the watchful ninja in the shadows, but he found a loophole and gained success. Thanked goodness that the secretary wasn't a ninja, or the woman would have seen through his disguise, a hedge of her boss. It was only sheer luck that the Hokage wasn't there, or he would have caught red-handed. His lips slowly stretched into a grin that rivaled a Cheshire cat's. With this scroll, he would be accepted into Orochimaru-sama's group and be acknowledged by the man himself. The snake Sannin would give him the power he could use to his heart content. No one could stop him from going to the man's side, not even the Lord Hokage. He felt giddy at the thought of being Orochimaru's right-hand man, a position that was most trusted by the man. He stopped his jump and ducked just in time to see 3 kunai impaled on the tree, a position where his head were supposed to be. He turned around and growled. His grip around the scroll tightened. "Irika, fancy meeting you here." The assaulter Irika crouched on one of the branches just behind the thief. He stood up, dropping his right arm that was in a throwing position down to his side but not enough to drop his guard down. A grim expression set on his face. Naruto was spying Sasuke, who was just finished his dinner at the dining room after he took his bath when a shrill rang in the night disrupted his work. Someone set off the alarm. Without hesitation, Naruto left the Uchiha compound, postponed his mission temporarily, missing the Uchiha's startled look. Naruto took the rooftop route when an explosion erupted in the forest near the wall. From his position, he saw some of the ANBU leaping toward the explosion. Noticing he was the closest, he quickened his pace. It took him 5 minutes to get to his destination while looking for the source of the explosion. Jumping out of the snapped branches, he spread his chakra around him, synchronizing with nature's. Naruto's head snapped to his right when he caught the sound of metal hitting together, and he changed his course. When his chakra wavelength rippled, Naruto pumped more chakra to his legs. 2 blue chakras. Human. Males. Shinobi. One was bright, others fainted. He sniffed, eyes hardened. Blood. Stopping on the branches, he tipped forward, letting his body fell steadily. Mid-air, he flipped his body and landed on the ground, just like a feline, soundless and unseen. Without warning, he dashed forward and kicked the spinning great wind shuriken off the course, missing Mizuki's head, aside from few strand of hairs. When his feet touched the ground, the twirling weapon embedded sharply in the tree. Everything became silence. No one dared to move. Naruto raised his head, turning his icy eyes to the sight before him. Mizuki, on his right. In throwing position, eyes dilated and mouth wide opened, fear. When he saw Naruto, a huge scroll strapped on his back. Irika on his left. Lying on his stomach, eyes clouded and his breathing was ragged but still alive. Collection of tears and red stains could be seen from here and there, blood pooling under the body. A quick calculate glance and a conclusion dawned him. Mizuki was a traitor. Several minutes ago, Irika was careful in any situation, and this fight was no exception. He deflected 2 kunai with his one, but a third managed to nick his left arm. It wasn't a terrible hit, only bleeding slightly, so he assumed it was nothing to worry about and continued the fight. It looked like Irika had the upper hand with how he fared against Mizuki. Any attack the silver hair delivered, Irika countered. However, it didn't last long. 5 minutes later and he's panting. Sweat completely soaked his clothes as well as his head. His movement became sluggish, as if he was drunk. Funny thing was he didn't drink any alcohol. When Mizuki saw this, the tables turned. Mizuki used all of his weapons, shuriken, kunai, etc., and shot them toward his former comrade, hoping this attack would kill him in an instant. Irika saw the attack and tried to move. He failed. No matter how much he tried, his body still couldn't move. It was as if someone put weights around his limbs, weighing him down. No other option, he thought. He bit his lower lips. Hard. It hurt, made him jolted from the pain. But it was more than enough to make him move his right arm and deflected most of the weapons thrown at him. When the attack stopped, Irika stopped too, still holding his kunai to guard. He didn't think that his sudden stop made him swayed though. Therefore, he fell on his knee, coughing blood, staining his front torn clothes. Then dizziness swarmed him with full impact. His vision clouded, the images he's seeing was blurred. The ring in his ears didn't help either. Felt like he was under a genjutsu, yet he wasn't. What happened? Wasn't he fought well before? On the other side, Mizuki didn't escape unscathed, but he was in better condition than Irika. He looked at the brunette and grinned. It worked. It really worked. What huff, Sofu? Huff. Funny? Huff. Huff. Irika really hated that when he couldn't see through his clouded, half-lidded eyes. The only sense he could use now was his hearing, albeit those annoying ringing. But it was better than nothing. At this moment, he could hear Mizuki laughing. Mizuki wiped his tears that had escaped from the edge of his eyes. The grin on his face was so wide it could have split his face in half. Do you know why you couldn't move your body? Instead of waiting for Irika's answer, he spread his arms in welcoming gesture. 'Cause you've been poisoned. Poisoned? Irika furrowed his eyebrows, almost connecting them in a line. Since when did he get poisoned? He searched through his memory. Did he get it during the fight, or was it before that? Before ceasing his eyebrows, an early memory flashed through his mind. Mizuki threw 3 kunai, and Irika defended himself from 2 of them, the third having nicked his shoulder. There was very little blood, and no pain from what Irika could feel. Irika brushed it off as a flesh wound and kept fighting. Mizuki laughed again, amused as a realization dawned the brunette. Yes. From the moment you missed that kunai, you fell into my trap. Poison on weapons works really well, don't you think? Shit, too careless. He should have realized that, in this situation, poison numbing kind would be involved. Just apply some on the edge of the blade and throw it toward the enemy. A good nick was enough for the poison sneak into their wound and numb their muscle. Any movement produced would cramp. Damn it. Because of his mistake, he'd to pay the consequence. Kunai, shuriken, wires, and various weapons were all over the place. Trees, rock, and even the grass were left merciless. He fell down ungracefully. His palms gazed because of the roughness of the ground. Okay, at this moment he no longer able to move. But if he could distract Mizuki to buy some time until the reinforcements arrive. Why huff? Are you, huff, doing this, Mizuki? The traitor stopped laughing as he stared at the brunette with crazy look. Why am I doing this? To join Orochimaru-sama's group, of course. Orochimaru? Should have known that it was Orochimaru's doing. Huff? Why would you huff? Wanna huff join that? Huff, lunatic. Mizuki straightened his back while patting the strapped scroll. Good, the fish took the bait. Well, I want power. The village can't give me that, but Orochimaru-sama can. Power? Huff. For what? Great, another power lunatic. To do whatever I want. Unlike Orochimaru-sama's group, Konoha makes too many rules and everyone has to obey them. You should do this and that. No doing here and there. It's annoying. Inwardly, Irika rolled his eyes. Rules made for reasons, idiot. Then again, Mizuki did have a point. Beside, I'm not that loyal to Konoha anyway. Oh, a traitor from the beginning. How do you plan on doing that? By giving him this buddy, of course. Mizuki pointed the said scroll with his thumb. This scroll would be my ticket to Orochimaru-sama's group. So, that's why. Irika narrowed his eyes. If Mizuki had the scroll and learned the jutsus beforehand, things would be even more difficult. He was just about to speak before Mizuki spoke that made him stiff. I'm afraid we have to stop here before the reinforcements get here. Any words Irika had in mind stuck in his throat. Did he? Yes. I know what you planning to do, Irika. Mizuki smirked smugly. Shit. That's why. The silver hair man took his weapon and flipped it to its original form, wind shuriken. Where he hid that, Irika would never know. You need to die here. Double shit. When Mizuki threw and the wind shuriken sped towards him at high speeds, multiple thoughts crossed in Irika's mind. Would his apartment sold to another resident? What about his foods, his vegetables in the fridges? It'd go rotten if left uncooked for too long. How about his pet, his goldfish? He'll die without anyone feed him. Who'd be his replacement and teach his class? He couldn't trust the other teachers to teach the kids wholeheartedly. More importantly, what would happen to Naruto? Whatever he had in mind was diverted when a loud thump echoed in the air. Now that he noticed, he didn't felt any stab other than the hits he received before, obviously, from the wind shuriken. Did he miss something? Using his remaining energy, he raised his head and squinted his eyes at the sight in front of him. Dark gray outfit, bandana around blonde hair? Wait. That bandana had piece of metal on it with leaf symbol. Headband? Blue eyes, correction. Dulled blue eyes. Naruto? You! Mizuki spat venomously. He glared at the demon. Oh, how Mizuki hated the lowlife. He hated him even more for the humiliation in the taijutsu spar this morning. Not only did Mizuki couldn't land a hit on him, he tricked the man by leading him out of the ring. At first, Mizuki was thrilled that he had the demon as his sparring partner. Since they had a sparring taijutsu, he wouldn't get caught for beat the shit out him, no matter what other would say. What he didn't expect was, while the man threw numerous punches, where Genin wouldn't be able to dodge, at the Naruto none of them land on his partner. Surprisingly, the Naruto dodged them easily without breaking any sweat, as if he was bored with the fight. It made Mizuki furious. Then, all of a sudden, Naruto vanished, shocking the white hair man. So, imagine what was his reaction when Naruto appeared behind him. He jumped, almost shriek at the sudden appearance. Mizuki quickly took his fighting stance, ready to defend in case Naruto decided to attack him. However, Naruto did not move from his spot nor do anything to attack him. All he did was stared at the white-haired Chunin with blank eyes of his. Why wasn't he moving? His confusion was answered when Irika declared Naruto as the winner of their fight. What? When did that happen? Locking his eyes with Naruto, who looked downward then at him. Mizuki frowned. Did he gesture him to look down? Slowly, he did as he told. Between their feet, there's a black line separated them. It was not a straight line, though. The curve was different. From Mizuki's view, it looked like a smile, and Naruto stood on the opposite. Looking over Naruto's shoulder, his surprise turned to anger. No wonder he lost. He was standing outside of the ring while Naruto stayed inside. The demon tricked him. And now his plan spoiled because the demon brat had passed the exam. If only he failed, Mizuki would have told the brat to steal the scroll for him as a real test in disguise. But the fault was on him. Mizuki really shouldn't have underestimated the Kyuubi brat. The fox was sneaky as it looked. Naruto faced the traitor, looking at the other apathetically. It made the white hair man red in anger. Mizuki Shuro, for stealing a forbidden scroll, attacking a Konoha fellow, and rebelling against the village by joining enemy side, you are under arrest and will be interrogated by TNI department for further information. You will be judged and tried by Lord Hokage and the council to find a punishment worthy of your crimes. Therefore, surrender yourself. It stunned both the Chunin, X in Mizuki case, to silence stunned because Irika, except Hokage, was able to watch Kitsune, minus the ANBU's outfit, in action firsthand. Stunned because the brat told Mizuki to yield. Surrender, Mizuki quoted. Surrender. Irika cringed at the laugh sound. It was haunting. Naruto, however, was stoic as ever. Surrender. The laugh stopped, before Mizuki glared, eyes filled with hatred. Nope. Slowly, a sinister smile formed as he answered with fake sweetness. Well, since both of you gonna die, I'll tell you the truth, Naruto. Irika did not like the look on his face. 12 years ago, you know about the demon fox being sealed away, right? Taunted Mizuki. Since that incident, a new rule was created for the village. Oh no. Irika's head shot up looking horrified. Mizuki wouldn't dare do that. Mizuki, what do you think you're doing? Mizuki ignored Irika's horrified question. He continued taunting Naruto, who had his eyes shadowed. But Naruto, this rule was never meant to be told to you. A rule, Naruto muttered, though it was loud enough for Irika and Mizuki to hear. The rule is that nobody is allowed to talk about the fact that you are the demon fox. Mizuki sneered at him. Stop it, yelled Irika. He wasn't sure whether Naruto know about this fact, but that's beside the point. If Mizuki start telling, it means that you are the QB that killed Irika's parents and destroyed the village. You were sealed up by 4th Hokage. This damn it. The twitch from Naruto's finger didn't go unnoticed by Irika. Stop it. You have been lied to by everyone. Mizuki continued as if Irika hadn't said a thing. Didn't you find it odd how everyone hated you? Naruto kept silent. Irika is the same. He actually hates you. Naruto, called Irika, worried about the young boy's reaction. He closed his eyes and heard again what the 3rd Hokage had said to him in front of the memorial stone earlier that day. He's never known a parent's love and is hated by all the villagers because of that incident. Nobody will ever accept you. So to get attention, he makes a lot of trouble. He's seeking acknowledgement of his existence in any possible way. But that was before the kidnapping incident happened. Now, he's no longer the same. That scroll was used to seal you up. He acts tough, but he is truly suffering. Stop it. After Irika's scream piercing the night, silence followed. The only noise could be heard was huffing from Irika. Both adults turned to Naruto, watching any change of expression, though that was highly unlikely to happen as he completely stoic all the time. That, or Naruto had his back turned to Irika. So when Naruto spoke, it completely baffled them. Mizuki Shuro, you will be severely punished for breaking the 3rd laws. Just like that, he disappeared. Mizuki frantically looked around. Didn't see the danger coming before everything turned dark. Irika gaped at the fallen Mizuki. On the white-haired man's neck stuck 2 senbon. It didn't look like it hit any vital organ, only paralyzing the man. His eyes lingered to the right, a little farther than Mizuki's spot. Naruto was standing stilled with his right arm outstretched before dropping it to his side. A word formed in Irika's head. Wow. Irika watched in awe as Naruto walked toward unconscious Mizuki and crouched beside him. The blonde took the forbidden scroll off the white-haired man's back. Turning Mizuki to his back, he grabbed the man by his hands and tied them together with a rope. Now where did that come from? Along with his body. Once done, he took out the senbon. Mizuki won't be awake for few hours from the paralyzing effect. Naruto rose up from his crouch and turned to Irika. The brunette Chunin opened his mouth, intent to say something, but a sharp pain from the back of his neck stopped him and darkness swallowed him. He knew nothing more. The next time he woke up, he was lying on the bed. When he opened his eyes, white filled his vision. Then he realized he was staring at the ceiling. Groggily, he turned to his left, cautiously moved his hurt head, though dulled in time. He was only half conscious and barely noticed his surroundings. Aside from the sound of machine beeping steadily, everything was blurred. Once his sight focused, he took a look of the place. There were some packs of red and clear liquids hang on the stand next to his bed, flowing through transparent tubes which connected to his arms. It was obviously he's in hospital. He frowned, though it ended up grimaced. He wasn't fond of the hospital, mind you. He gazed around. Nothing interesting. Boring. What happened? He wanted answer. A nurse around the age of 20 walked in with a clipboard in hand. As she tore her eyes from the said thing, she looked up and found him staring at her. "Oh, you're awake. You just notice?" Irika thought. Eyes inwardly glared at her. He didn't mean to be rude, but whenever his head hurt as if he was pounded by a big-ass elephant, he tended to be grumpy. Thankfully, the nurse didn't have the mind-reading ability, or else he would have lost a limb by now, ninja or not. According to the nurse, it was around 11 at night, 10:48 p.m. specifically. He was carried here by one of the ANBU members and had passed out due to blood loss and poison in his system. It took exact 4 hours for the doctors to keep the man out of the critical condition. Afterwards, he was transferred to a single room and had been sleeping continuously for 2 days. By now, his condition had improved greatly, so he would be discharged tomorrow morning. After she gave him the medicines and made him go through a thorough checkup, she left, wishing him a good luck. Once the nurse out of his sight, he huffed. Was he really that close to death? That Mizuki. Thankfully, he's alive. Well, no use dwelling on the past, even though it was just 2 days ago. He closed his eyes. A sigh escaped from his dried lips. He opened them and yelped in surprise when Naruto hovered at his right like a hawk. Metaphorically, of course. Naruto! What the hell? How is he in here? And, shit, that scared him. His free hand lay over his chest, trying to calm his racing heart. He exclaimed, "Don't do that!" Unfortunately, he hadn't used his voice for who know how long, causing him coughed. Damn, his throat hurt like hell. Through his slight teary eyes, he saw Naruto handed him a glass of water. Irika quickly and kindly took the glass and gulped it down. He sighed with satisfaction, feeling the water cooling him down. Naruto placed the empty glass back on the bedside table, muttering his apology. His eyes never leave the man. Once Irika was breathing normally and was fully awake, thanks to Naruto, he asked what happened after he passed out. Naruto gave him a recap. He preferred it be called a report. After Irika sent to hospital, Mizuki was captured and brought to T&I department to be interrogated. Irika shuddered at the thought of Ibiki's methods. The forbidden scroll had been safely returned to its belonging. No casualties. By the end of the report, Naruto was already occupying the seat next to the Irika's bed. Irika didn't say a word as he thought. Throughout whole of the explanation, not once was Naruto's name mentioned. As if he wasn't there, and only Mizuki and Irika himself know the truth. And maybe Hokage with his tracking device via crystal ball. Huh. So that's why Naruto rendered him unconscious, without warning too. He smirked, completed amused with Naruto's way. Naruto gave his own victory to Irika so it'd look like he's the one that finished the job instead. Naruto planned this just to keep his identity from being found out so he won't be questioned by others. Clever. Tuning to his side where Naruto couldn't see his face, twin waterfalls formed as he comically cried. How shameful! Hours for hours, actually it's only less than 20 minutes. Irika fought Mizuki, still the traitor did not fall. Naruto, on the other hand, took him down only using Senbon and his Shushin. It was all in less than 10 seconds. Where was his pride as a man and as a Chunin? It was silence. None of them talk. Both lose in their own world. It was Irika who started the conversation. You know, Irika began, you shouldn't listen to Mizuki. No respond, figured. Irika peeked, only to see the boy closing his eyes and crossing his arms across his chest. His back leaned against the seat, stoic as always. It would have fooled Irika had he not seen the boy's shoulders tensing. Eyes narrowed as he looked with calculated stare. The boy's indifferent look and the tensed body. That's where Irika noticed. Naruto had no idea what he felt right now, but his body did. Was Naruto nervous? Sigh. Listen. Naruto didn't move, except shifting his head to Irika's direction without opening his eyes. It is your choice whether to accept or deny Mizuki's words, but I'll be blunt here. Irika paused, waiting for the words sunk in first. Yes, my parents died 12 years ago because of Kyuubi. Yes, I became orphan because of that. I'm all alone. No one to compliment me or acknowledge me. While kids my age had peoples taking care of them, I was alone. I was so sad. That's why I would always act like an idiot to get people's attention. Since I wasn't able to do well in things like school and get attention that way, it was better than being nothing, so I kept acting like an idiot. As Irika started telling his tale, his mind lingered back to his past. He was still a boy and already in academy. Oftentimes he joked and made stupid yet harmless things so they'd noticed his existence. It made him happy that some peoples included him into their group. However, they needed to return to their loved one. Unable to accompany him any longer, left him all alone. Whenever he saw those lively peoples doing something together, especially with the family, it made his heart ache. It hurt. He would always cry in front of the memorial stone, where his parents' name carved. His parents. They fought to protect the village from being demolished by the demon fox. In the end, they died. Kyuubi had killed them. He saw it happen with his eyes, and couldn't help but hate the demon. It wasn't fair. Why did his parents needed to die? They were ninja. They faced death every time. So what? It just wasn't fair. Anger bubbled inside him. He wanted to revenge, especially that monster. Wanted to kill, torture, slaughter. Finally, he met the fox, monster killer demon freak. Only not in a way he expected. It was a boy. A boy with hidden whisker marks on the boy's face behind his high collar. He met the boy 12 years later in front of his classroom. A thought popped in his mind. This boy was the fox that killed his parents. It took form of a boy to deceive people just to finish his job. The anger he'd buried a long time ago surfaced. His dark feeling began to corrupted his mind and telling him to revengeable torture. Then he gasped. Whatever he had in mind disappeared because of what he saw. The anger grasping his heart loosened. His hatred toward the boy vanished. All he focused at was the eyes, blue, the color of the sky. It dulled. Not a single light flashed through. No flickering of emotion in those eyes. As if the boy had died. Imagine his surprise when the boy spoke flatly. It kind of scared the man how dead and creepy the boy looked like. What the hell happened? The truth from Hokage hit him hard. Hearing the boy Naruto, not Demon Fox, had been through hell and torture, all within such a short life made him felt terrible. Compared to Naruto, Irika's misery was such a small portion, nowhere close to Naruto's. Now he could see what had happened to the boy. He became a puppet, believing himself as a tool. Really, if anyone should be called as a monster, it was Irika. And also the villagers of Konoha. Life isn't fair, I realized. Irika added, returning to the present. But you know what? His gaze lingered to the boy who had his hidden under the shadow of his bandana. The man took Naruto's hand that was lying on his laps and squeezed gently. Glad that Naruto didn't pull from his grip. Life is never fair, and perhaps it is a good thing for most of us that it is not. After all, you only live once. But once is enough if you do it right. A little misery at times make one appreciate happiness more. Chapter 8. First Meeting. Br that they are your charges, and you are the one that get the final say on whether the Hokage was giving a speech to his subordinates regarding the team assignment. Jounin men and women alike stood while their Hokage spoke. All except Kakashi. While his peers are as serious as a soldier, he's as lazy as a Nara. Typical green vest over his matching navy clothes, the end of his pant tapped around his shins, black sandals, a weapon pouch here and there, and his trademark mask over his lower face as his trademark. Let's not forget his headband over one of his eyes, causing his silver hair to stand upward and tilt oddly to the side, causing his name to match his looks scarecrow. What important about him? Well, won't you like to know? Aisles are the student's academic record files, so he flipped a page of his orange book with a gloved hand, reading line by line with the occasional giggle. Females close to him often glared at him for reading such a dirty book in public, especially in front of their Hokage. What? Get your own life? Why don't cha? Not that he would say that out loud. Call your name to get your student's files that was chosen. Despite his peers being called up, the scarecrow ignored them. He was reaching a climax. You shouldn't know the content. It was rated as an adult book for a reason. After flipping another page, he giggled with unnoticed blush on his masked cheeks. Kakashi Hatake. The man stepped forward before stopping in front of his superior. After receiving the files, he returned to his spot, all the while stuffing his nose into his reading as list resumed. Estians? Good. Be there at 8 tomorrow morning for your team. Kakashi lowered his book. Done already? Dismiss. Finally. All bowed respectfully before their leader and left the office. Kakashi sighed as he stepped out of the Hokage tower. Crowding in the office was suffocating. Moreover, the heat was starting to get to him. He had a glimpse of the time a while ago and it showed 15 minutes before 11. So he decided to eat. Besides, he had an S-class mission needing to be done today and head out to in 2 hours. Within 10 minutes he found a dango shop, a little far away from town, but reachable, and entered. Thank goodness no maniac dango lover in sight. Anko was the last person he wanted to see right now. No, he did not hate her or dislike her or anything negative, he just didn't want to see her at this moment. That woman was clingy and perverted, and extremely dangerous if you push the wrong button. She's a nice companion to have, actually, just only when she wasn't in the playing mood. Anko's game was sadistic. Only few peoples were here today, and dangos and teas already served. It's Friday, an unofficial day, as he liked to call, where people choose to laze around, especially shinobi. Good thing too, cause, despite Kakashi being one of the most powerful ninjas, even he needed a rest. That's why, blessed Friday. He took a table at the corner near the entrance and as usual, the waiter came. What would you like to order, sir? Green tea and dango will do, sir. And left with the order to prepare. As the jounin leaned onto the wall, something brushed against his thigh. He looked down, lay innocently beside him was his unofficial Genin team's files. He stared, wondering if he should read now or not. Nay. Maybe later. Besides, it's only a couple of brats' record. What could go wrong? It was only after he completed his mission at midnight, reporting to Hokage, went home and woke up the following day that he read the files of his team. Arg! Where is he? Sakura screamed in anger before she plopped down on a seat she claimed not long ago with a huff, arms crossed. Not a moment later, she tried to hold a conversation with the boy beside her. Keyword, tried. Sasuke's face completely void of emotions while reading another philosophy book, as if nothing was bothered him. That would be nice and all if he didn't feel like murdering someone using that large book in his hands, preferably someone with pink hair. Unfortunately, the pink hair being was oblivious to the raven hair's irritation and continued flirting shamelessly. Sakura, batting her eyelashes at her crush, hoped to catch the last Uchiha's attention. It failed nonetheless. If anything, it made Sasuke's patience ready to snap. Earlier, Irika-sensei had congratulated them and giving a speech to them regarding the life as a genin, yada yada. Oddly enough, the Chunin had his neck, hands, and head in bandage. Also, he looked a little pale but healthy enough to work. His assistant, Mizuki-sensei, wasn't here either. When she asked, Mizuki-sensei was unable to show up because of a certain matter, was his reply. She bought it. After the team assignment was over, the teams picked up by their respective sensei and left, including Irika-sensei, which was 2 hours ago. The only peoples that still stayed were Sakura, Sasuke, and Naruto. The three sat where Naruto always used to sit, at the back of the class. Frankly, Sasuke wanted to read beside his quiet teammate. Sakura just followed her crush like a lost puppy. Realized that the boy ignored her. She mopped. He still didn't like her. Huh. To distract herself and avoid falling into depression, Sakura peeked at her third teammate. Naruto was reading next to the open window. The cover, she noted, printed what looked like a pic of a head that was painted in black with red question mark in the middle. Some words blocked by his hand, which made the sentences easily misinterpret. She squinted her eyes and read. Emo dash. What's that supposed to mean? Shaking her head mentally, she calculated the guy while listed down what she knew about him. Her other teammate, Naruto Uzumaki, was quiet. He rolled into academy more or less 6 months ago. The guy was antisocial, awkward, and friendless. He only was around during classes or related activities. Once they finished, he'd be gone without a trace. His scores were the same as the rest of her former classmates. Average. All in all, he's nothing but a stranger. Oddly enough, Naruto gained newly formed fan clubs. Their usual reply when asked mainly by boys was weird. What's so good about the guy? He's so mysterious. Kaya, yeah, that's about it. Seriously, the guy's a creep. It was one thing if he didn't speak, but he also avoided everyone around him, acting like they were the plaque. Sakura had tried talking to him, but whenever she did, something else would distract her. Her gaze left the boy for a mere second and, after turning back a moment later, he was gone. With her attempts failed, she gave up. Sakura assumed that Naruto was a shy boy but didn't express it outwardly. Just like Sasuke, she liked to think that. What pissed her off was how he appeared and disappeared without warning, just like a ghost, which shocking the lot of them to death. Intentionally or not, it happened too many times. After all, Sakura hated being shocked. It wasn't good for her health. Also, what was up with the getup? She could understand the reasons for wearing covering clothes. Taking Shino for example, he's a bug user, therefore he had to wear a big coat with long sleeves so his bugs could reside in him. Hinata was the heir of a powerful clan, Hyuga. Any revealing clothes were strictly forbidden. That, and the girl was shy. Kiba's jacket with fur hoodie was nothing but decoration for his clan. That's what she thought, anyway. Naruto, on the other hand, Sakura eyed the said boy's attire in distaste. No one would be that crazy enough to cover their form from head to toe like a mummy, especially in this summer. She once participated a silly game. Find out what Naruto's face looked like. At first she was excited. Was he handsome? Not as handsome as Sasuke, that's for sure. Cute? Or maybe he's ugly, that's why he didn't want to show his face. But with efficiently he evaded her attempts to unmask him. She finally gave up. With that thought, she leaned toward third assumption. Naruto was ugly, meaning a bad person to be paired with Sasuke and her. Something so horribly tragic cannot be allowed to happen. She must keep Sasuke and herself away from Naruto. Haha, I'm smart. Stay away from my Sasuke-kun. A creak sound snapped her out of her devilish thought, and the girl, along the other two, turned to the door to see a man with jounin attire stepped in, reading an orange book. If Sakura thought Naruto was a creep, then this man was a freak. Seriously, what's with 3/4 of his face covered and leaving only his right eye visible to them? But the man was a jounin, so she kept the thought to herself. An awkward moment of silence prolonged as none of them moved, still scrutinizing each other until Kakashi spoke. Team 7, my first impressions of you three is... The dramatic pause caused Sakura and Sasuke, who had closed his book, leaned forward with anticipation. Naruto continued stared. You guys are boring. Gloomy clouds appeared above the pinkette. Naruto only stared. Kakashi's sweat dropped. Meet me at the rooftop in 5 minutes. He poofed into a white smoke and the gloomy mood worsened. Okay, tell me your name, likes, dislikes, hobbies, and dream. The three in front of him sat on the steps with Sasuke at the middle, Sakura at his right and Naruto at his left. "Why don't you show us how it's done, sensei?" Sakura asked with a smile that was obviously a fake. Kakashi sighed as he put away his book. "My name is Kakashi Hatake. You don't need to know my likes and dislikes. My hobbies are for grown-up only. My dream? I don't have one. So all we learned is his name," Sakura muttered to her soon-to-be teammates. Sasuke's expression was blank, but the twitch of his fingers didn't go unnoticed by the older man. Kakashi nodded his head to Sakura. "Starting from you, Pinky," said. Pinky glared at the man for the nickname before she started her introduction. "I'm Sakura Haruno. I like," peeked at Sasuke and blushed. "My hobby," giggled. "My dream," squealed. Kakashi resisted himself from rubbing his ears. He didn't deserve this kind of torture. "Your dislikes." "I know, pig." This time Kakashi gave in as Sakura harumph. "Okay. You're next, Broody." The infamous Uchiha glare was shot at the Jounin. The glare, however, was brushed off by an ice smile. Plopping his elbows on his knees with his fingers crossed and rested them under his chin, Sasuke stared ahead. "I'm Sasuke Uchiha. I have tons of dislikes and few likes. Dream is not the right word. My ambition is the resurrection of my clan and to kill a certain man." The Jounin tuned out the squeal from his only female genin hopeful as he smothering his silver hair, refraining himself from sewing her mouth just to shut her up. He turned to the last member. "Right, Blondie." Like a soldier, Naruto straightened his back with blank expression. "Name, Naruto Uzumaki. Likes, unknown. Dislikes, unknown. Hobbies, reading and sky gazing. Dream, unknown." Sasuke stared at the blonde indifferently. The gleam in Sasuke's eyes said, "Why hadn't I thought to do it like that?" It was surely not what Kakashi was expecting, and he would have liked to leave that uncaring impression. Sakura couldn't care less. Kakashi, on the other hand, winced internally and frowned. Kakashi had read the files of each of his team. The first two were the same as the files described them be. Sakura was a fairly average student with fairly average looks. Her forte was really chakra control since she didn't have much and maybe, just maybe, strategy. Sasuke excelled in ninjutsu, followed closely by his taijutsu. Everything else was pretty average. Not much can be said for Naruto though. Good chakra control, the rest unknown. Every description about the boy was true, however odd that was, and the lack of information seemed to be on purpose from Naruto's end. With great effort, he tore his gaze away from that empty eyes. He began to speak, catching the rest of the members' attention. "Meet me at training ground 4 at 7 tomorrow morning for your survival training." "But sensei, we already had survival training." Sakura practically whined and Kakashi started laughing. "Why are you laughing all of a sudden?" Sakura said, starting to get confused. Had she missed something? Kakashi started laughing a bit harder. A tick mark appeared her eyebrow. "Apparently so." "No, well, it's just that when you hear this you're probably gonna flip. Of the 29 graduates, only 9 will be chosen to be genin. The rest will go back to the academy. This training is super difficult exam with a failure rate of over 66%. Sakura went frozen in shock and disbelief. Sasuke left his brooding to search his sensei for any sign he was joking, and was sorely disappointed. Naruto was just Naruto. "Oh, don't eat breakfast, you might throw up." He waved cheerfully and poof away, once again leaving a trail of smoke behind. "What?" Kakashi appeared on a near tree and crouched one of the branches, completely hidden from view. He was observing the unaware kids. With the Jounin gone from their sight, the pink creature, Sakuare, Kakashi memorized, immediately asked Sasuke for a date while flirting over him. Sasuke just stood and, shoving his hands in his pockets, walked away from the two. Sakura persisted, following the guy like a lost puppy, completely leaving Naruto behind. Naruto only stared, unmoving. While Kakashi could understand they weren't friends and felt awkward around each other, that didn't mean they couldn't get to know everyone better. That was a first step to be a real team. He sighed. This is gonna be a long day. He looked back and twitched, refraining himself from Shunshin. Naruto had turned his eyes here. Kakashi assumed something else had caught the boy's interest, or maybe he just looking around. It wasn't. Instead, Naruto kept his eyes on the tree he was hiding, especially his location. That unwavering stare made him uncertain. Did he know I'm here? If he did, then the kid must have felt his chakra. But how? Kakashi had repressing his chakra and could be mistaken as a mouse. No fresh-out genin were able to sense his presence. Maybe. Kakashi stared back, and without meaning to, they held a one-sided, staring contest, since one visible and the other hidden, for almost an hour. Now staring for hours without blinking was one of his specialty, but even his eyes had a limit. His eye stung and starting to tear up. Damn, he needed to blink now. A blink won't trouble him, right? Another 30 minutes and Kakashi finally gave in, blinked, and looked back. The seat was empty.